Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
A timeless story of strength, secrets, and two warriors who would never podcast.
That's the tagline?
Yeah, that's a weird tagline, right?
Who would never what? Kiss?
Surrender?
They would also never podcast. I think it's fair to say.
They would never podcast. They would track.
That would be a good podcast, though.
There's one scene where you think they're almost going to break into a podcast when they meet in the little shack with the great square window.
Yes.
And then they don't.
They're going to join the Surte podcast network.
Right. And Chow Yun-fat asked...
I did it! I'm out! I'm not topping that!
David is walking out of the studio.
Sorry,
David,
It's all right.
come
You
on.
still have another David. It's fine.
All right.
Blank check with Griffin and Davids.
There is that scene where Chow Yun-fat realizes it's the princess and not the Jade Fox.
Right.
And he offers to train her and also asks her who her guys are.
Who are her guys?
Who are your guys?
Wudang?
Lock the sword.
Hello, everybody. We're going to lock the sword today. My name's Griffin Newman.
David Sims.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. We're hashtag the two friends. It's a competitive advantage. We're the only two friends who do a podcast together.
True.
And what is that podcast?
Blank check with Griffin and David.
Well, what's it about?
Filmographies.
Directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want.
Like this one.
Like this one. It's crazy.
Sometimes they crouch.
Sometimes they hide, baby.
Yeah.
This is a main series on the films of Ang Lee, and the main series is called Brokepod Mountcast.
That's it, right? We
Yes.
keep forgetting.
We keep forgetting.
It's something like that.
And this is Crouching Podcast, Hidden Podcast.
Sure.
The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon episode.
Right. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Cask. And
Is this still his most...
Ben just shook his finger.
No. No.
No.
Is this his highest grossing film? I feel like this, Life of Pi, and Hulk all ended up very similar.
I think Life of
Numbers?
Pi grossed a fair bit more than this.
I'm going to guess that this is his highest grossing adjusted, but I'm not sure if it's highest.
Ooh, interesting.
Hulk grossed 132.
Okay.
This grossed 128.
Okay.
Life of Pi grossed 124. Very similar.
But worldwide.
No, that's domestic.
Yeah.
Worldwide, I think it's Life of Pi.
Worldwide, it's
Life of
definitely
Pi
Life of
was
Pi.
crazy huge worldwide. It
Yeah.
made 609.
Yeah, crazy.
This made 213 worldwide. Hulk made 245 worldwide. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
That was
Those are
that weird-
Justice League numbers.
yes,
That was that weird thing, though, that we discussed
Justice League wish it got those numbers. It's Justice League in 2003 who got those numbers to be happy.
when we did our Batman Begins episode, and we looked at the overseas, and like overseas Batman Begins did 100 million.
Right. Yeah.
Like it was just like not until
the same with, like-
2007 did movies make that much money overseas, other than weird examples. There were weird like...
Right, well, even later though, yeah, it's like, Captain America 1 tanked worldwide.
Yeah.
Like, to think of that now, like a Marvel movie not appealing, like, to the whole world, like...
Well, and they did that whole like first Avenger thing to try to like couch it, and
Right.
Thor was like viewed as this massive success because of how well it did overseas.
Right, and it did, like, fine.
It did fine.
It did,
Yeah.
like, what a movie opens in China to now.
Right. It did like it did then what like I don't know Tomb Raider is going to do now.
Yeah, Tomb Raider is huge in China.
Yeah.
Did you see Tomb Raider?
No, I did not.
Raids it too.
I like it.
Did you see it?
I liked it a lot.
I liked it.
This
I
is
did
hot
not
off
like
the
it as much.
presses
So
for an
I was
episode
gonna-
that's coming out in June.
So I was going to go see Tomb Raider last week for... I was going to a press
Uh-huh.
screening, and Griffin was like, fuck, I really want to see Tomb Raider. And
I
was
thought
like,
it looked like a
"You
Gentleman's
do?"
Six. I had a feeling
And
it
he
was
was
going to
like,
be a
I
Gentleman's
think it's
Six.
solid. David, I think it's solid.
I got a feeling it's solid.
I walked out of there. I thought it was close to
It
solid.
looks like it's aspiring to a Gentleman's Six.
I agree.
You texted me.
I said...
it's a Gentleman's Six.
Did I? I think I said Gentleman's 5. It's more of a Gentleman's 5. for
Let me check the text. People have been waiting months for our Tomb Raider takes, despite the fact that you published a Tomb Raider take.
I did publish one. It's true. And my review was like, it's fine.
Okay, you said in all caps, it's pretty solid.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
You didn't give it a gentleman's
Then you asked
number.
about the puzzles, and I said that there were 4 puzzles, and one of them is good.
Okay, so here's the thing. This
It's
is
a
why.
Zelda game?
This is why. Yes.
There's like one puzzle that is
100%. This is why Tomb Raider gets an automatic Gentleman's Six for me. There's a moment where, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world, Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft is like hitting things on a wall, and then goes, "Oh my God, it's a color puzzle.
Yes.
Hand me that tombstone."
Yeah, she's like, blue and yellow, green. like literally, that's the.
But just
eureka
immediately, we
moment.
all know what a color puzzle is, and it's
Damn
like,
right.
rotate that hearth wheel.
Yeah, right.
If she had just been like, I saw this shit in Ocarina of Time, I would have seen that movie.
I would
I also
love to
know.
see
I think
Ocarina of
she's
Time with
really
her. She's
good in
great.
it. She's
the reason
really
the movie
great.
is okay is her.
It's like a franchise where I could see the second movie being exponentially
Yeah,
better
maybe
than the
someone
first.
else could direct it.
Yeah, and maybe
A good director.
maybe like producer Ben,
What?
Purduer Ben,
I thought we weren't doing the names.
poet laureate, the Haas, Mr. Positive, Mr. Positive.
We're thinking about dropping the nicknames.
We're thinking about dropping
We've
the
got-
names. What do you think, Erlich?
I'm going to tell you right now on behalf of the entire community of people listening to you, that's a fucking awful idea.
Yeah!
Also,
He just blew
may,
out
may
the
I
mics.
add, eat, drink, Ben woman.
Oh yeah, I told you to bring that
Yeah.
fire right
We
to
also,
this
I mean,
podcast.
my B team level one was the wedding banquet, but too subtle.
yeah, kind of. I'd go to a wedding banquet.
I also
I like it.
I like eat Ben, drink Hosley.
But no, in all seriousness, I will torch this place to the fucking ground if you guys stop the nicknames.
So
We've been considering it.
our guest is David Ehrlich.
Of course, of IndieWire
you're a
fame,
guest and arsonist.
of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull fame,
Right.
Yes.
But I want to say something because David's with us for
Yeah.
the third time. Three Timers Club.
Three Timers Club.
Last 2 times you're on the podcast, you had not listened to this podcast.
It's true.
And then not long after.
I was mostly here out of pity.
not untrue.
And your pity was appreciated, noticed, and appreciated.
Here's how I remember it. We went to your wedding. You got married.
I did.
Last year. Congrats.
Humble brag.
We were all there.
Humble brags all around. We went. You got married.
Right. Then you went on a honeymoon with your beautiful wife to Japan. So you were gone for a bit, and then you were back. And
I was back.
We were at a screening
Baby.
of Spider-Man: Homecoming. He was back, baby.
Back to be.
And I saw you in the line for the bathroom, and you said, like, I listened to your episode. I can't remember which one. It was funny. And I was like, oh, thank you. And then I walked away, and I was like, Erlich's listening to Blank Check?
I remember.
We finally got him?
See,
Took
I'm-
him 2 guest
The
appearances?
hardest listeners to land are the ones who have been on the show twice.
Always the hardest. Trying to get Sonia really badly to listen.
She definitely will. Maybe she will. I don't know.
I have fallen deeply and passionately in love with this podcast.
Right. And then since then, you would come up to me like, I can't believe how rude I was to Ben last time
Oh,
I
no.
recorded.
That's
I was like
nice.
too dismissive to Ben, but Ben is now, like a religious
you
figure in my
understand
life.
his importance in the canon.
In the firmaments. I am now honored to be back. I'm deeply resentful of the hosts who are outside of this context, good friends of mine who have been here more times than I have.
Damn.
Wow.
I have an Arya Stark-like list of who they are, and I will topple them one at a time. By
So you're
just
gunning for
appearing on
that
the
Five
show.
Timers Club.
Oh, 5? 5? Or 25?
You're looking to post Baldwin numbers?
I listen to all the episodes at home and also speak into them at the same time, and it's a little.
You're the Rupert
Yeah.
Pumpkin of Blank Check, apparently. You will because you got in late. You'll sometimes very
Yeah, you'll be on
excitedly
an old one.
tweet us about a joke or a take from something we said a year and a half
Right.
ago.
You'll hit us with some speed racer shit or whatever.
You'll tweet in response to something else we're talking about, and then go by the way, your opinion on blank is criminal.
Right.
There were some hard times listening to the Cameron Crowcast, but I will say now that I've listened to, I think every episode that I care to anyway,
Wow.
that I am honored to be here for, and this is some movie trivia for you all and for everyone else who's listening out there. Some fun facts up there with Jerry Maguire, Broadcast News, Catch Me If You Can. Crouching Tiger is the best film you guys have ever done. So that's just the truth.
I should do that sometime, rank the movies we've covered.
Oh, and also Almost
I've been
Famous.
working-
Fuck you.
Yeah. Thank you. I've been working
Gentleman Six.
on that list on Letterboxd, but I haven't made it public yet. Of trying to rank
yeah,
all
where
the
you're
blank checks. Yeah.
Well, I just made your work a little bit easier for
So
you.
you're saying you're Catch Me If You Can. You mentioned Jerry Maguire. Was there another one? I can't
Broadcast
remember.
News.
Broadcast News.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, we've done for you, it's RoboCop.
Right. I mean,
Would be up
RoboCop's
for
my
you.
favorite movie we've covered.
There's Under Siege 2.
Under Siege 2 is my second favorite.
Fletch, yeah.
Clifford.
Definitely. Oh, Clifford for sure.
Yeah, right.
I feel like Broadcast News is probably my number 2 behind RoboCop.
Seems plausible.
Is Jerry Maguire your number 1?
Possibly.
The Weight of Water.
I mean, I like Star Wars. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, not while Erlich's here.
I have not listened to the Star Wars cast, but I did listen to
you
the
should
last.
listen
I
to them.
listened to the
We're
last
at
Jedi.
each other's throats in them. Yeah. Hey, Ben.
Hi.
Hi.
Poet laureate, peeper,
Oh, no.
tiebreaker, birthday Benny, soaking wet Benny. He's our finest film critic. He's not Professor Crispy.
No.
He is the fuck master.
Yeah.
He's a meat lover. He's a fart detective.
True.
If you see him on the streets, wish him a hello fennel.
Graduated certain titles.
Such as producer Ben Kenobi, Kylo Ben, Ben Night Shyamalan, Ben Say Anything, ... Ailey Benz with the $sign, Warhaz, Purdue Bane, Ben 19, the Fennel Maker, RoboHaz, Benglish,
I don't fucking know.
and Mr. Ben Credible.
Yeah, I guess so.
Who cares?
And Eat Drink Ben Hosley.
Eat Drink Ben Hosley.
So what dark thought would have inspired you guys to consider doing away with the best part of your podcast?
Here's the answer. I
It's
get
a
no enjoyment
marathon.
out of doing it anymore.
It's a fucking marathon.
I find it very stressful.
Yeah.
Like there's a thing like I'm pretty good at memorizing dialogue, but whenever I have speeches that have like specific technical details in them or like names of companies or whatever, they're like scenes in The Tick where I'm like trying to put together the mystery and I'm like, but the Armenian lab was blown up 4 days ago and Dr. Blank and Blank.
Right.
And I just would always fucking fail to get the details right. If it's not about like the language and the rhythm of it, but it's about like hitting those specific things. And I have now gotten to the point where having to list off the Ben nicknames feels like that for me.
Well, it'll make you a better actor.
I guess.
Good.
It sort of keeps the show in your mind, though. Because like when you do his names, you have to remember like all the miniseries we've done.
There's that nice
there's like
element.
some history there.
Yeah.
Right,
Listen,
right.
if it's not like paralyzingly stressful, it's not worth doing. That's the mantra
I mean,
I live by.
my
and
life
it's the
is
one that will
paralyzingly
kill me
stressful.
You
Yeah.
two are my friends who, like, anytime I see either of you, and I see both of you often, I'm like, what's up? And you're like,
I love when Griffin talks about how
I'm
tired he is
stressed
on the podcast. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
tired.
and yet,
Yeah.
and yet I'm the one who audibly yawns on this podcast all the time.
Okay, you want my impression of us talking?
Yeah.
I'm going to play you. You're going to do the response that you just did, right?
All right.
Okay. Hey, buddy, what's up? What's wrong with you? Come on.
That is a great impression.
Right?
of
That's
me.
what you always do.
Come on.
What's wrong? Come on.
God, it's great.
It's great. That's David's
great.
response to
So-
everything is just, it's great.
I listen to the show on Monday mornings on my commute into work, and I hear how tired Griffin is, and I think to myself,
I get it.
at least I'm not on a television
Same,
show.
bro.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, no one should make a TV show. We all know this. This is a fact. Can't wait to go into season 2, just mere weeks from now.
Hopefully, when this comes out, you will be done filming. And if
Yeah,
you
that's-
aren't,
that's our-
then there's been an issue.
Yeah, let's put that in writing right now.
Yeah, on the record.
On the record, I should be done filming by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah.
But that's why we're recording these so far in advance, because it's like, this is where we're trying to, this is what we think the bank up point needs to be
Exactly.
to make it through
It is
filming.
December 9th, 2000. We have just come from the opening night of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
We
Well,
I
synced up this
remember.
miniseries
Yeah.
perfectly
Well,
with the
it
release
was-
of a new Ang Lee film.
Crouching Tiger came out in Lincoln Plaza Cinemas on December 8th, 2000, and I
correct.
got on a train from Connecticut to New York.
Really?
Saw it, thought, brought 4 friends or so, went home, went to sleep, woke up,
Did it
got on a
again?
train, went into New York.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So why were
R.I.P. Lincoln Plaza Cinemas.
I know. Why were you so pumped to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon at the age of, I'm going to guess, around 15, 16, something
2000,
like that?
yeah. I just turned 16.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a fine gentleman of taste?
Were you an Ang Lee fan, or was it like you just knew
Oh, yeah.
this was...
The Ice Storm really
That's
moved
what
the
I'm
needle for me
asking.
when I was
Right.
14 years old.
Because like,
Because
also,
you joked, the Ice Storm did really move the needle for me when I was 14
the film's
years old.
not
Sure.
far from my house.
Yeah.
I saw this movie opening weekend in Britain. So I don't know when that
was probably
was.
much later.
But see,
'cause
that's
you guys are
weird
slow.
because, yeah, and also...
Sorry, Ben. It's
I mean,
true.
I understand that Ehrlich took a train to see the movie, but why would you take a plane all the way from New York to
That
I
Britain?
is-
didn't take
Such a
anything
commute.
except
Wait.
for the Northern Line. Whoa. I blew out the mic, too.
But how would you even get to the station?
I took the Northern Line 2 whole stops to go see it at the Camden Town Odeon with my
Okay, but
friends.
David, I have to slow you down. Once again, you would have to fly to England in order to even get on...
Not if I live there. Whoa. Baby.
Would you have
Wait
lived
a
there
second.
if you had known that
Wait a second.
Crouching
Galaxy
Tiger
brain.
would have come out
Galaxy
later?
brain.
Wait, what's that? What?
Would you have lived there had you known that you would have had to wait, I would imagine, a few months longer to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden
I mean, it
Dragon?
wasn't my pick. I'll be honest with you. It's true. I would rather just be in the US of A.
When your parents told you you were moving to the UK, did you go, but when Ang Lee finally makes his Wuxia epic, I'm going to have to wait 3 stinking months
Now I want to know how long I had to wait. Now I'm looking at it.
I don't remember anything about how I came to movies. I knew I was into like Akira Kurosawa around that time.
This was also a very hype movie.
Yeah,
I mean, if you were like,
I think I just saw it because it was a hype movie.
That was the
I
thing.
don't think I had seen an Ang Lee movie.
This was my first Ang Lee movie, unquestionably.
Like I definitely hadn't seen Ice Storm or Ride with the Devil. I was aware of Ride with the Devil though.
Oh, my mom had like made me watch Sense and Sensibility when I was sick. That was one of those like,
saw
if
that
you want to
movie-
watch a movie, you
I
have
can't
to watch
remember.
a classic. You have to watch something that's like highbrow.
I might have seen Sense and Sensibility. Anyway, it was 5th of January 2001. I took my friend Josh, who was always a hard sell. He never wanted
Josh
to see
shat
any
his
movies.
pants at this movie.
Yes, for sure. Like he was always like someone I had to really talk into seeing any movie. Took him, and when it was over, he like turned to me and his eyes were shimmering, and he said, "Thank you for bringing me to this." And he loved that movie and like bought it on DVD and would watch it every week.
So I saw it with my
So I felt
dad.
happy about that. Yes.
I saw it with my dad. I believe I saw it at the Regal Ewok, I want to say.
Okay.
So after, probably like a month after it had come out, when it was like really building ahead of steam, heading towards that Oscar season, you know? And we both disliked it.
You both disliked it.
Yeah, so
you saw this movie. You were probably pretty young.
I was 11, I think.
Sure.
And my dad and I were both like, what's the fucking deal with that thing?
Wow.
I was still pretty...
You two sound like bad people.
Yeah.
We were really bad people. And I watched this now and I was looking for like, okay, I can get why I didn't like that at the time. Like I was ready to be able to find a prism through which I could understand what didn't work for me. And I couldn't even really get it. Like what my objections were. And I even remember like 6 months after the fact being kinder to the movie than I was right after seeing it.
When
even
you
though-
were 11 and a half. Yeah, much more mature.
Right. But hadn't
viewer.
seen it since then, and in my mind already, vividly remembering it, knew it was a good movie.
Wait, so you didn't see it since then?
No. But it's crazy. In my mind, I was like, yeah, Crouching Tiger, very good film. Like, it was like my perfect recall of the movie started playing better in my mind as time
Did you
passed.
like it more this time?
Yeah, it's a really fucking good movie.
It's an incredible movie. Ben,
Some say it's the best movie you guys have ever covered on this podcast.
Well,
Or up
tied
there.
with Broadcast
Right,
News
of course,
and
of
Jerry
course.
Maguire. And
Some say.
yeah.
Benjamin,
Yes, sir.
did you see this movie?
Yeah.
Like, did you see it back when?
Yep. I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, floating.
Yeah, actually.
What?
Yeah.
I honestly think that's where the movie lost me at the time. I think I was like, as an 11-year-old who was starting to get like fucking hoity-toity about film, I was so literal-minded where I was like, but they don't explain why they can fly. Like, I remember that being like a deal breaker for me the first time they flew.
You sound like a bad person.
Yeah, well, I'm not arguing against that.
Why would you need justification
Right.
for floating?
Well,
It's
that's,
just
now
cool.
I watch it and I'm like, why isn't every character floating in every movie?
That's a great point.
I remember my dad, I came home and my dad was like, was it good? And I was like, yeah, it was great. And he was like, I hear they just like,
Fly.
they'll be like fighting with swords and then one of them will just walk up a fucking wall. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, that sounds great.
I
I just
genuinely,
literally, he was just like, that sounds great. They just walk up the wall.
I genuinely had that
It's like
thought.
a
though.
Jamiroquai music video.
No, but they were
That's
like,
what he said.
That's
Every
Ang
time-
Lee's chief inspiration.
every time they just like float a little bit, like they jump a little higher, stay up a little higher, or do the wall move, I'd just be like, why do other movies worry about gravity
you know what?
and
Right.
physics and shit? This is so much cooler.
I love, there's not even a scene where they're like, it was great when I learned floating.
But as an 11-year-old, I was like, show me a flashback to flight school.
Although, parsing who can fly and who can is sort of important to appreciating the characters
Yeah.
and dynamics.
That's
and
true.
This brings me back to the very first movie review I ever wrote that set me down this darkest of dark paths.
Okay.
For my high school newspaper was about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Some
Really?
bullshit about like the characters believing in themselves and flying. I'm probably going to paraphrase a lot of the shit that I said when I was 16
Right, it's
still in
today.
there.
Yeah. No, the answer is only the characters who have gone clear are able to fly. This is a Scientology movie, you guys know.
Scientology
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
They copped that on the audio commentary
Clear
on the
check.
DVD. Yeah.
Yeah, clear check.
I don't know.
Sometimes their seating's clear and sometimes they bounce, baby.
Sure. Don't want them to bounce. All right. So, connoisseurs of context, guys.
Yeah.
Ang Lee
Mhm.
made Sense Sensibility.
Big hit.
Big hit. Got
And
some
he was like,
Oscars.
what about that, but with flying?
Well, no, then that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But before he made that decision, he was like, what if I make like the most depressing movie ever made? Was that going to work for everyone? He releases it, gets good reviews, everyone hates it.
Move the needle for Griff.
No Oscar nominations, right.
It's weird that movie got no nominations.
I feel like it was in the running for a few and just sort of like
Yeah.
missed the boat.
Sigourney
Like, it was-
Weaver's fucking
It was
great
in the
in
running
that.
for Weaver.
Yeah. I love that. But even that feels like
movie.
such a slam
Great
dunk
movie.
screenplay kind of nomination movie.
You know, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love that film, but we've already talked about it this one.
Right, Ride with the Devil.
Right, that's a bounce.
Such a colossal flop.
Huge.
So, but he makes this so quickly after that. I wonder if he was always going to do this. It does feel like a bit of a like, let me get back to my shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like let me like recenter. Let me hit go back to zero.
It doesn't feel like this movie is reactionary, but it also feels like no one had the expectations of this movie being an international play.
Even though it required literally every country on the planet to come together to finance it.
Right.
But I think
he
imagine
knew it was going to come out in America. I don't think he saw it being $100 million movie.
No, yeah. I think he was like, this is one for me, you know? Not that Ride for the Devil was one for them, but he's like, let me just flex some muscles, get back to some different things, you know?
As you say, Columbia Pictures put in a little money. Sony Pictures Classics put in a little money. Good Machine, they're still around.
James Seamus.
Hong Kong, China, Taiwan. Like, everyone's putting money in there.
There are stories about the how fraught it was trying to get all the pieces in place while they were doing pre-production.
Really?
Like, this movie almost didn't happen even after it had all been laid out.
It sounds like a really intense shoot, too. Ang Lee's in interviews is very like, I didn't sleep for a year, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we were saying this right before we recorded, but the four main actors in the film did not speak the same language with the same accent.
Right.
Yes,
they do not.
Right.
Not on camera, anyway.
But also not
of them
life.
One of them is essentially speaking lines phonetically.
Right.
One of them, who's Michelle Yeoh.
Right.
Chow Yun-fat is speaking with a horrible accent.
Yeah.
I mean, not a horrible, but like he's a Hong Kong actor. He has a Cantonese accent. Zhang-Ji speaks Beijing Mandarin, essentially, like what these movies sort of usually require. And Chang Chen is Taiwanese. I think he has like a Taiwanese accent. Yeah. So, yeah. Apparently it sounds absurd.
Right.
If you have an ear for this.
And Michelle Yeoh said that she didn't take any jobs for a year because she knew the level of preparation this was going to take physically, but also that she wanted to be able to speak Mandarin convincingly.
Right.
Which she didn't have any fluency with. And yeah, she did learn it phonetically. She was saying, I mean, they were saying that she doesn't know how to read.
She's Malaysian. Right. Yeah.
Mandarin. They had to spell it out phonetically for her.
It's interesting that he made that move, but I guess they're all huge stars.
Yep.
At least Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat are huge stars.
And Chow Yun-fat had, I mean, I think in hindsight, it's hard to remember this being the case or see it being true, but he had never done a martial arts period film like this before.
Right.
He was also a huge action star, but not in this vein.
Yes, he's, of course, your John Woo, action star.
Right, but he was more of a modern action star.
But I think this movie is like a very, like, it was not even like him making a safe, it was like him reviving a sort of an old, it's like making a Western or whatever. It was like, oh, you're going to make that? Those can be kind of cheesy.
It was like if somebody made a Western, but it also was implicitly built to and engineered to appeal to a worldwide audience as much as it appealed to an American one.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was like, it's so much about the putting this movie together and negotiating with the plot and all the various tropes were going to be was about satisfying audiences, around the world, which is a really difficult balancing act.
And this movie weirdly did worse relatively in the East than it did everywhere else, right? It was not hugely popular.
It was popular. It wasn't like, it's not, it made more money in America than it did overseas.
I was doing some Googling and I found articles from the year 2000 where they were like, why isn't Crouching Tiger doing the equivalent level of business? It is not as beloved in China as it is everywhere else. I think the other reason I had a block with this movie when I was so young is like what you were saying, that it was kind of like a dead genre at this point to do this sort of like very earnest wuxia epic. But there was so much like parodying of these types of films in pop culture. And I was such a parody kid that I couldn't understand how this was more high art than the sort of things that I was seeing parodied.
Are we sure about wuxia? Because like my tendency is to like throw a little Mandarin spin on there and be like wuxia.
Wuxia.
But
You're right.
I think you're probably right.
I don't know. I'm not good
I
at
have
this.
no
idea.
I'm coming at this from a place of profound ignorance. So
Well, here we go. I'm just gonna Google it. I mean, that's the thing of this.
You know what I'm saying? You know how like there was so much just like mocking of like wire work.
Well, there's like Scary Movie this year,
right?
And there's a lot of Matrix mock, and obviously this has the same action choreographer as that movie. But
I mean, because this movie is playing in a milieu that is inherent to like King Hu movies and wuxia, like the classics, but at the same time, the sensibility that Yuen Ping is bringing to it is a lot more modern. It's the same sort of like balletic fight choreography you'd find in like Iron Monkey or something like that from with like the Donnie Yen films, the Jet Li films from the 90s. So it was sort of a lot of things that audience had seen before put together in a package that no one had ever really seen before.
And Ang Lee is bringing a greater emotional depth to it. Like, they're each bringing something to sort of like elevate the film, the genre to levels that it hadn't really been at before.
You want me to hit play on this?
Oh yeah.
Wuxia. I'm hearing a hard X.
I'm hearing an X.
I don't know if I trust that random YouTube video that I found.
You would trust me more than some random YouTube video? I'll go with the YouTube video.
If I can be honest, I'm scanning the studio right now for Jamie Kennedy because I feel like we just got X'd in here. I feel like we just got X'd. There he is. Behind the fridge. That old trickster.
Yeah. Oh boy. So
do you think it's the first time Jamie Kennedy has ever been mentioned in context with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or not?
No, definitely not. He saw it.
Yeah.
So you think someone else is like, Jamie saw that, right?
Like, I think like someone at like the Low Century City 15 in the year 2000 was like, Jamie Kennedy came to see Crouching
Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
Mr. X himself.
Right. I thought he was Xing us. He was buying a ticket for Crouching Tiger, was going to sneak into the End of Days instead.
Is that Malibu's Most Wanted?
Hey, this was a pre-Malibu's Most Wanted era.
Oh boy.
Malibu's Most Wanted would never have happened without Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
He was very influenced.
Yeah, it's a straight line.
Yeah.
So
doesn't Snoop Dogg play a mouse in that movie?
I've seen that movie and I don't remember.
I think he plays a mouse or a rat.
So is that like it starts talking if someone smokes weed?
Yeah, probably. And then he sneaks under their hat and pulls their locks of hair.
Remember how
makes them be offensive.
Remember how in Keanu, the cat talked like Keanu Reeves because it was Keanu Reeves' voice, but like that didn't work.
It was literally him.
It was him,
but it sounded like a bad impression.
Exactly, it felt like the movie being like, "Check it out," and you were like, "That's Keanu, right?" Like you didn't like you were just sort of annoyed by it. I don't know.
Remember after Keanu came out, everyone was like, "Yeah, I guess I don't know. Jordan Peele might not have a career in movies."
Did you see Keanu, David? No. You're silent. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Keanu's fine. Anna Faris is unbelievable in that movie.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Don't agree?
I hate that part of the movie.
I think that performance is phenomenal.
That movie got the most like tepid response out of South by Southwest of all places. And I was like,
hard.
oh no. Like there's no chance.
It also just felt like that movie was gonna like work. You were like, oh yes, 100% the Key Peele team should do an action movie. Yeah.
And then it's called Keanu. Everyone was like, ha! I love it.
I also know a guy named Keanu.
Yeah, right. So Crouching Tiger, he makes it, comes out, does great.
David just closed the large leather-bound volume.
I will say that I don't know if any other movie, I mean, and all the ones I can think of are like, spot on brand favorites of mine that announces this quickly that it's a stone cold masterpiece and does so against a black screen with music.
So you're sold from the opening credits.
The opening title is
we are like
amazing.
Not even the opening credits. I'm talking like fucking The Void.
Sony Pictures
and
classics.
then you just hear, and I was like fully erect.
I mean, to be fair, you were young.
Yes.
It was easy.
A lot of things had that effect on me at the time, but especially this music.
No, but then just sit up. That's what that's saying.
I can go shot for shot. We want to do like a 10 hour?
Yeah, let's
10 hour? Okay.
Yeah. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
First shot, that dude smoking, staring into camera. It's pretty awesome.
He does a lot of interesting, like, and I feel like Ang Lee does this a lot in many of his films, but very much so in this one. He gets so close to the coverage being POV shots. Like, it's off by, like, a couple of degrees, but so often you're really kind of staring the characters head on while they're in conversation with other people.
There's some funky eye lines in this movie.
Yeah, but it works. Like it somehow. I always prefer people who shoot from inside the conversation because it makes it feel more dramatically engrossing, I think, than when you're getting like over the shoulder shots.
Yeah.
But distance is so critical to this movie. The distance between the various characters.
That's the other thing.
You can tell right from the beginning when Li Mu Bai shows up, and that woman gets so excited, and she runs over to Michelle Yeoh, and she's like, "Guess who's here?"
Yeah.
And Michelle Yeoh has to be like, "Okay," because like everybody knows they're
Lock it
super
down.
horny for each other,
Right, exactly.
but they can't say it to one another.
No. But they can say things to each other, like,
over time. That's like hour
right.
2 stuff.
This is one of his great bottled emotion movies, which is like a big running
like
theme
you
for
say,
people
it is
who don't know how to express
Love
sensibility.
a
themselves.
movie
Sense
about bottled
sensibility
emotions.
with a magic sword.
That's how he pitched it to Michelle Yeoh to get her on board. Was he said, "Do
really?
you want to do Sense and Sensibility with flying?"
I mean, yeah. Why not?
But then it's also like marrying the sense of sort of cultural traditions that he's getting at in his first couple of movies, where it's like these people can't express themselves because it's like unbecoming. There are expectations of how they should be living. But really, it's a movie about people who just want to fuck.
Well, that's the thing. But also,
They just want to fly and fuck.
he shows up.
There's
My
a
favorite thing. Go on.
No, I was going to say there's a whole scene that they cut of Chow Yun-fat staring into a mirror like Paul Rudd in Wanderlust. Just being like, I want to fuck you.
And that's the
Shu
one
Lin,
scene
and
that's
then
all in English?
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
He's just got the sword in his hand, but he's like holding it between his legs.
Yeah, James Seamus and Ang Lee actually didn't talk for 2 years after he cut that. He's very upset.
He shows up. So we're in Beijing.
Yeah,
right?
that's the opening movie. Chow Yun-fat comes in, it rolls into town.
He rolls in, and it's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "I went searching for enlightenment, and I just felt an endless void. So that's what's up with me. What's up with you?" Right? Like that. Isn't that? That's like the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah.
She says that, and he's like, "What's up with you?" And she's like, "Works all right."
Yeah, right. I don't know. I got the studio.
Right, and then she's like, "But you're the best. Can't you just power through it?" And he's like, I don't care enough anymore.
How's the enlightenment thing?
Yeah, it's
I feel surrounded by endless sorrow.
Right.
Oh, is that enlightenment? I don't think so.
It's like he reached the end of the road and realized that his feelings for her were the only thing that mattered in his life.
Right. He's like Clint Eastwood, right? Like he's like the greatest warrior ever. He's been up to all kinds of shit. This is based on the 4th book in a 5-book series.
Yeah.
So there's been like 3 books, which is like Li Mu Bai kicks some magic bear's ass or whatever, right? Like there's been 3 books of just adventures.
It's great that by picking a later book, they like end up prescribing to the like get in late, get out early theory of dramatic storytelling, where it's just like, you don't need to see all the other shit. This guy just comes with baggage and he's Chow Yun-fat, and you believe.
It's also like
they don't explain anything.
You can
like
just
a
imagine what that guy's been doing.
2,000-page word book, and like pretty much what James Seamus and the other writers took out of it was like they're Chinese and they fight.
Right. Just the basic dynamics, right? Chow Yun-fat's an
And they
interesting.
have magic flying powers. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chow Yun-fat's an interesting point here because it's like, okay, huge Hong Kong action star. He and John Woo were one of those pairs where like their movies were crossover success, and they were like, let's get those guys to the States. And John Woo's making big American movies at this point to varying degrees of success.
Broken Arrow, the biggest American movie.
Right. The #1 biggest American film of all time. The most expensive movie ever made.
Right now, he makes Mission Impossible 2 this year. So he's sort of at the height of his American
So he'd
powers.
gone Broken Arrow, Face Off. Right. So he was on the right trajectory. Chow Yun-fat wasn't totally working in the States.
You forgot Hard Target.
Oh, yes. I
For
did
one.
forget Hard Target.
Fucking Van Damme, and then Broken Arrow, then Face Off.
But he's moving
And
on
then
a straight upwards trajectory, right? He's
John
getting
Woo.
bigger. The movies are doing better.
And not only that, but his aesthetic is actually well known to Western audiences.
Right.
People know about the fucking doves and the
All of
two-handed
it.
guns. Jackie Brown has a whole monologue about the killer. It's really funny.
I'm saying it's one of those things like Rutger Hauer and Paul Verhoeven where they were like, let's get both these guys over here. And John Woo was like sailing, and Chow Yun-fat was doing like the replacement killers.
The Corruptor.
Right. And I feel like everyone knew his
was him,
name because he was one of those guys who overnight was like above the title in a bunch of action movies. And his name was Fat, so people thought it was funny.
Chow Yun-fat. No, he'd be so you got the Corruptor, which is the James Foley, Chow Yun-fat, Mark
Right.
Wahlberg 99 joint.
Right.
There's the Replacement Killers, which is I've seen it. And that movie's a lot of fun.
Anton Fuqua?
Mira Sorvino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's kind of rules. Jurgen
I
Prochnow,
can see
Michael
that.
Rooker.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Rooker?
Yeah, Rooker's in it.
Jan did
And
that?
then he was in Anne and the King last year.
Right.
Which is a little more of a prestige play, right? That's
Right.
Directed by Andy Tennant.
Director of Hitch.
Yeah. A director of Ever After. That was his Ever
Director of
After.
Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So, and that had been a
Tenant's
flop.
our next miniseries.
Yeah, I was going to say, when's
Yeah.
the Tenant?
And after this, he doesn't make a movie for 3 years. And when he does, it's a Bulletproof Monk, which is one of the top 5 worst movies ever made.
My point is,
it's just weird that he was just like, forget it.
he was such a big star overseas, and his movies did cross over here to the States, that he just like landed as like, Chow Yun-fat is an American leading man. Everyone pay attention. He's going to be your next great Hollywood movie star. And he was like sold that way, and then the 3 movies didn't really connect. But he had that kind of like name recognition.
Sure.
Yeah, but sight unseen, you watch the first 10 minutes of Crouching Tiger and you get it.
You get it.
Yeah.
Like, he rolls up and you're like, okay.
You fucking get it. And this is also him doing something very different than what he's ever done before, as we said. Like, because he was a pretty modern star. This is him putting himself into a different time period and a different sort of genre. But the dude's just a fucking badass.
So he has Wu-Tang powers because he's from the Wudong Mountain School, right, which is in like every Kung Fu movie, right? You go up to the mountain and you learn your crazy Kung Fu powers.
Right.
So he has Wu-Tang powers.
Yeah.
He's fought people for a million years.
Yeah.
He's got the weird haircut.
He's also got a shiny MacGuffin.
Yeah.
He has a shiny-ass MacGuffin.
Green.
Green.
You know how
and
most
cool.
swords are silver?
Not this one,
green.
baby.
Yeah.
He's decided to retire because he felt endless sorrow.
Yeah.
Recently.
Same reason I'm retiring from film criticism.
Yeah, same reason I'm retiring from making TV shows.
So he's come to Surte's house. Surte played by who?
Our father who knows best.
Si Hung Lung from the first 3 movies Ang Lee made. I love that he just pops back in here. He's going to give him the sword. Then I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to like walk around? Like, what's Li Mu Bai's plan?
Oh, he wants to move past the void. If you know what I mean, with Michelle Volz.
He's going to
Michelle
ask
Yeoh.
her on a date. He's going to like, you want to get some noodles sometime?
He has essentially spent like, in my mind, it's something like 25 or 30 years. Reflecting on his inability to be with her because his like blood brother in arms was engaged to her when he died. And they, to honor his memory, have always had to be platonic. And then he has sort of reached a point where he's like, oh, this is the only thing that actually matters because everything else is impermanent. And our love, to quote the James Seamus lyrics from the closing song, is
Our
across
love is like
time.
a drug, right?
Our
That's the song
love
from
is
the
like a drug.
end credits here.
Our love won't let you down.
Yeah, love will
and-
keep us together.
Yeah, and and so he's asking in like the most repressed possible way, like, wanna fuck.
Right.
But I think that was his intention, and then he shows up and is like, I do not have the courage to go through with this. Like, he immediately starts whiffing and biting his tongue.
So
Yeah, but-
sweet.
Yeah, he's a nervous
Even
boy.
though he can like, if someone shoots a sword at him, he can like cut the sword up and shoot the sword back at that person.
Dude walks on treetops.
But like 15 minutes later, when the movie goes full Jane Austen, and she's like Michelle Yeoh's character is really slow on the uptake to figure out like what Li Mu Bai is thinking about because she's been so locked in this sort of platonic, sexless vibe for so long. And then he just looks at her and he goes like, I didn't know the sword was stolen until I got here. And it's like, damn. Like, sorry, I'm cutting ahead a little bit.
No,
but
you're
like,
right though. No, cut ahead.
I love a good repressed love story.
Do you know what I think Chow Yun-fat's, I do too. You know what I think Chow Yun-fat's status is in this movie? I think he's in like Daniel Day-Lewis retirement mode, where it's like, you were the best in the world at something. You're suddenly telling us that it's not satisfying to you anymore. You want to get out of it. And he's like, I don't know, cobble shoes? Like, what am I going to do? Like, it feels like if he stayed alive in 3 years, he probably would have gone like, you know what? I'm going to go back up to that mountain and start fighting people again. But hopefully with Michelle Yeoh by his side. Like, he's just feeling the missing piece. Michelle Yeoh is so fucking good in this movie. I always forget how much I like Michelle Yeoh until I'm watching a Michelle Yeoh film.
And you're not watching The Lady.
I haven't seen
The
that.
Lady.
It's really hard to remember how much you like Michelle Yeoh when you're watching her in The Lady.
Yeah, well, let's
her
hope
fault, not
Luc
her
Besson didn't win March Madness.
He might have.
Yeah, he might have.
He's kind of curb stomped Aronofsky.
Why do you keep on
I
this?
keep doing it. I don't know why. I know what his name is.
Yeah.
Aronofsky.
It's not.
Aronofsky.
I thought you were mad at him for curb stomped, which seemed unnecessarily violent.
I dislike everything David just said. No, but she's one of those actors who is so good at showing you everything she's thinking without like trying to communicate it.
Sure.
Can I say weird comparison? But I got it just from watching the way that she uses her eyes in these scenes where she's trying to suss out
That's
what
the
Li Mu
thing.
Bai is
She's
saying.
such a fucking good eye actor.
I thought of Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out.
Oh,
It's like another great eye
heavy
performance.
performance.
Yeah, I think so. It's very subtle eye-based work. I mean, she barely moves a facial muscle.
This is her most like locked up. Like this is her at her peak repressed.
And she kind of had a better. I mean, I just remember when Tomorrow Never Dies came out, and it was the first of 4 consecutive like. Finally, a Bond girl who's even tougher than Bond.
Sure, right. Yes.
She's the one who fights this time.
She rides a motorcycle? Holy cow.
Yeah, but she had similarly been someone that Hollywood was trying to like make happen.
Tomorrow Never Dies is fascinating though because she's like to him like, you know, China's run by gangsters. I'm trying to deal with this. And he's like, you want to deal with my dick? And she's like, no, like I'm not interested.
I'm not in a James Bond movie. You're in a Michelle Yeoh film.
She's literally like the media is being corrupted by foreign influences.
Right. We have to fight Rupert
You
Murdoch.
fucking monsters are buying up everything.
This is the most prescient thing that any Bond movie could deal with for the next like 25 years.
And he's like, you know what else is pretty prescient? My ding dong.
Like I don't even think they have sex in the movie. They kiss at the end.
Yeah.
She's really good.
She's like less sexualized than most Bond girls, but still he keeps on trying to sexualize her.
Right.
Like the movie sexualizes her less than that character does.
Right.
And what else had she done in Hollywood?
That is, I think, the extent of it. I can
Really?
double check. She's in nothing else.
I just remember that,
Yeah, that's
like
it.
her landing big with that movie.
Of course, but that was only in 97. Which is kind of
yeah.
But no, I mean, she had been a 15-year, Hong Kong action star.
The Queen of Martial Arts, they call her.
Yeah, she's amazing. There's all the, you can watch clips of her. Like she's an incredible physical.
She was the only actress that Jackie Chan would let do her own stunts in his movie.
Came to this movie after having debilitating knee surgery.
I think it happened at the very beginning of filming.
Right.
And she had to keep on flying back to the States for surgery, and then she'd fly back to set, do dialogue scenes while she was recovering, fly back to the States for further surgery. Like they pushed off all of the action until the very end.
She was nominated for a BAFTA. She should have been nominated for an Oscar.
100%.
This movie was sort of rudely treated by the Oscars in terms of the performances. I feel like they kind of just shrugged their shoulders about it.
Yeah.
I think all 3 actors, like starring actors, should have been nominated. I think there was some category confusion though.
Ziyi Zhang feels like such a slam dunk supporting actress nomination.
Right, but she's kind of the lead.
That's the question. Yeah. That's the question. Because the first half of the movie, it definitely feels like it's Michelle Yeoh's film, and then it becomes really Ziyi Zhang heavy.
You know what it is though? It's it's Lady Bird. I was just watching this movie thinking about Lady Bird.
You were watching this movie. Did you see his tweets?
There is
James Seamus liked these tweets.
What?
Edgar Wright liked these tweets.
What?
There is.
I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not being louder than usual, but somehow I'm burning the mic more than usual.
It's quite all right.
Just move away from it.
There is I've seen this movie, I think just constantly since it came out on DVD. It's just been on a loop in my apartment in mind.
Yeah.
And so that's more than a few times. And
it's like the ambient music in your bathroom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which is usually Blank Check, but also this. And I listen to it on the pooper when I'm getting fired. Like I'm just really dating this podcast now.
Cool.
But I never really looked at it through this lens until I was just on Ambien and trying to apply Lady Bird quotes to everything because that's what you do when you take sleeping pills. And I realized that there is a lens. I mean, obviously there's a love story that you don't get in Lady Bird between the adults in the room, but it is a coming of age story with Zhang Ziyi, and she becomes their surrogate daughter, and the sort of the glue that is bringing them together, but also the factor that is keeping them apart.
Right. But it's also kind of right. What if Sense and Sensibility, Kate Winslet's character, could fly and was a bandit?
Sure. It's a big hodgepodge. A lot of things going on. A little stew.
I love that she's a fucking bandit.
She's a bandit.
Yeah.
She's like, let me learn how to fly. Let me learn how to sword fight. But also, like, I'm going to be a bandit.
Ben's throwing his hands up in the air like a televangelist.
I'm so excited. I love bandits. And now...
Do you wish you were a bandit?
Yeah.
Like with like a well-placed like handkerchief?
Oh my God. Are you serious? Of course I want a handkerchief over my face. Now, here's the thing. This is a little non-traditional of a take for me, but I love the fact that she was a dry bandit.
Interesting.
Because,
because there's the wet bandits of Home Alone.
Right.
I almost just stepped on your joke. I was going to cue you up for it, and I'm so glad I didn't to let you get that out.
But like, there's a lot of good wetness in this movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty wet movie.
For sure.
Because there's a sex scene in a spa, essentially, mountain spa. There's a
Loved it.
great jump into a lake.
Loved it.
What else
There's
we
just
got?
even the way that like Zhang Ji just like gawps at the water in the waterfall at the end when she's poisoned.
Yeah.
She just like stands under the little drip drop and just like,
Yeah,
"Oh."
the whole end sort of
That's
finale
true.
chunk.
That's gonna be
It's
a
just sort of a
disgusting
wet
sound.
cave.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
But
Wet
she's a dry
death.
bandit.
She is a dry
I mean,
bandit.
she's very dry in general. Like it's a lot of like, in and out.
Well, I do want to talk a little
nothing
bit about
left.
sweatiness
Oh.
because I mean, we could have this conversation organically as we go through the plot, but I think about sweatiness in terms of how you guys like to describe movies, and it's interesting because this is, and the way that this movie is plotted is a lot sweatier than I had ever realized. But it's all done so elegantly and with
And
so much
so
grace,
confidently
right?
as
That
well,
like you don't
yes.
even really notice or care.
But you're
Yeah.
right. Like there's a version of this movie where you're like, wait, there's a flashback now, and then there's another one that just sort of continues that flashback
It's
like 20
very
minutes
weirdly
later.
structured because the flashback
And, like,
happens like an hour in and then lasts for like 15 minutes.
And now there's this part where she just goes to a bar for a while. Like,
Yeah.
what's this bar? Like, where's
She's dressed
the
like
bar?
a boy,
Yeah,
and
she doesn't look like a boy.
yeah, everyone buys it and calls her sir even after she started talking.
There's like a guy whose whole bit is like 2 bowling balls on sticks. Like that's his weapon. He just
Yeah.
picked that.
one guy brings an abacus to the fight. In
Xia Zhang, this was like her second or third movie, right?
Yeah,
second
so she-
movie. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it might be third. Let me check. I mean, she had broken out with The Road Home, right?
Right, that was the big
her.
one. Yeah.
Where she's such a cutie pie in that movie.
And she was certainly the person they tried to make happen the most after this.
Apparently, no, yeah, she was in some TV movie. So this is her second movie.
Okay.
Second movie. She works with 2 legends of Asian cinema.
And then she gets to follow it
and
up by
then-
working with 2 more legends
Chris Tucker.
and Brett Ratner.
I was so
That's
hyped for Rush Hour 2.
Me too.
when
I
that
was
came
so
out.
in on her, and I was so happy she was in it. I
Yeah.
don't even remember what she does in that movie. Like,
She kicks some people.
Do you remember that Rush Hour 2 had like the biggest opening weekend of all time at that time?
no, I didn't.
It
remember
was
that.
where in 2001, Rush Hour 2 opened to $70 million.
It's because the guy who allegedly like went on to the Chinese billionaire who paid Zhang Ji for
67. Wow.
there's some story about how some Chinese billionaire paid Zhang Ji a crazy amount of money for a weekend together. I don't know if it's true,
Jesus.
but I feel like before he had realized that was a possibility for him, he may have just splurged on Rush Hour 2 tickets.
Rush Hour 2 is still the 4th biggest opening in August ever.
Yeah, it's a crazy big
Behind
opening.
Bourne Ultimatum, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Suicide Squad.
I think at the time of its release, it was in the top 5 opening weekends of all time. But like her being in that was so fucking exciting.
it was. But that's a bad movie.
Rush Hour 1 is good. Rush Hour 2 is bad.
I don't like.
I think Rush Hour 1 still holds up.
I mean, I like Jackie Chan, and I don't even mind Chris Tucker. But Rush Hour is kind of a boring, sweaty cop movie.
Okay.
Like that's the problem.
I got
Like
a
I
few-
like Jackie Chan, like when he's like
I
just
have
doing
a
his
few
stuff.
counterpoints for you. Elizabeth Pena rules in it.
She's always good.
Tom Wilkinson plays the villain. His name is Griffin.
That is true. You want to know something, and then you can talk, David. I'm sorry. My
No.
mother interviewed Tom Wilkinson many, many, many years ago.
Okay.
I think for In the Bedroom.
Did he bring baguettes?
It was pre-Baguette
Okay.
Wilkinson. It was for In the Bedroom, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, he said to me, Rush Hour, like, transformed his career.
I'm sure.
And I was like, really? Rush? He's in that? I
Yeah.
had already forgotten it. And he said, like, that was it. That was what Hollywood took me seriously after I was in Rush Hour.
He's the big bad in Rush Hour, but I had forgotten it was him. Like, I didn't remember him
Right.
from that when he then broke out after that. And then I saw Rush Hour on CBS in like 2010. I was like, oh, Tom Wilkinson was the villain in this?
But
David.
no Rush Hour. You don't get Michael Clayton. You don't
That's
get
true.
the sweatiest performance of all time.
Fucking bastard.
That's a
And the
sweat
spaghettiest
movie.
performance of all
But
time.
wow, does
boy.
it hurt my heart on a podcast dedicated to one of the great films to be talking about Brett Ratner.
All right.
Back to
All
not to tell you guys how
right.
to do your job,
No,
but
you're
I
right.
I
Do you-
can't.
What? No,
I was
what
just
are
gonna
you
say that I can't. Whenever I think about the first 20 minutes of this movie and how they're organized and how they build up to like a fight scene that changed me at a genetic level,
Uh-huh.
it always makes me feel, and this is not a good feeling, like Harry Knowles reviewing Blade 2.
God, don't invoke
Classic.
that. If you mention that review 2 more times, he shows up.
Well, this is really the only mention I had built into my
Right,
notes.
right.
But I mean, just the way that's all I need to say about that. I
For
think
those
anyone
of
who
you
knows.
who don't know,
Do we need to bring more people into
Harry
the fold?
Knowles
Just
is-
Google Harry Knowles Blade 2
Blade
if you
2
want to
review.
feel really
Do you know this,
uncomfortable.
Ben? No. I'm going to put this as delicately
He
as I can.
compares
He
the film,
He says that
watching the film.
the movie is like watching Guillermo del Toro perform cunnilingus. But he doesn't just say that. He devotes like 4 paragraphs to
describing like the act of
the moves.
I just had a passing thought watching it. I was like, if I were Harry Knowles, that would be the review I wrote for this movie. But fortunately for all of us, I'm not.
Yes.
But the first 20 minutes of this movie, now that I've put it the worst possible context to introduce them, are organized so unusually, but also so expertly.
There's no action. It's a lot of convos.
Can I just say one last thing about Rush Hour 2?
Is it going to be in reference to the bit in the closing credits where a stuntman falls off a building and Chris Tucker goes, "Oh, he's not going to be in Rush Hour 3," because that's one of the great lines in all the movies.
It's really good. It's 15 million comedy points.
He got $20 million points for the third movie.
Someday we'll just talk about. We'll do a whole episode about Chris Tucker's salary increases, which is insane.
$20 million points is funny.
Xi Zhang, it was really funny. One comedy point. Xi Zhang didn't speak a word of English when she did Rush Hour 2.
Yeah.
So Jackie Chan translated everything for her. So Xi Zhang probably had the best experience of anyone who ever worked on a Brett Ratner movie because she never had to talk to Brett Ratner.
Right. It all went through the nicest man in
Jackie
show
Chan.
business. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. You're right. Talk about the opening. It's all combos.
It's like 15. It's beautiful.
Tandon is wilding out.
Ken's just going crazy. Yo-Yo Ma's sitting there throwing him layups.
Yeah, the audience
Exactly.
is like... The listener at home, I'm dancing like I'm at a club.
There should have been a remix. There should have been like a club remix.
Yeah, there should be a.
Isn't that what the Seamus end credit song
remix
is? Yeah.
But no, it's real deliberate. I think that if you are 16-year-old me, hyped for some of the best choreographed action scenes of all time, you're like, what the fuck have I stumbled into?
Right. Sure.
And they just build it up, and suddenly you get bow bow, and they cut to the nighttime, and you see a little bit of wisp of cloth go across the top of the screen, and suddenly we are in what, to my mind, is like maybe the most beautifully choreographed fight scene I've ever seen.
This is the first night fight sequence.
Yeah, but every fight sequence, like,
it may not even be the best fight scene.
It might
in the movie.
not even be the best one in the movie. All right, so we got Li Mu Bai, famous warrior, kind of chilling out, looking to retire. You got Shu Lian, somewhat semi-famous warrior. I feel like she's like a B-list famous warrior, right?
Yeah.
I think, in the whole sort of misogynistically organized society they live in,
she never got to climb the ladder all the way.
And she's mostly known for being the object of his affection.
Right. She's like his pal.
We've got the introduction of the princess because they see her, they walk in on her coveting that sword.
You mean Jade? I mean, no, not Jade. Jen.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yes. And then, she's there, but she's just like, like an aristocrat.
It's a little breakfast at Tiffany's moment, just staring at that sword and being like, I want it.
Tells Michelle Yeoh kind of how like much she wishes that she could have Michelle Yeoh's life.
Right. It's a lot of, you went on all these adventures.
All those books
so
I
exciting.
read. And she's like, it's just books.
Shu Lian's just like, it's not that exciting. I mean, I can fly.
Yeah.
Let's not, I mean, I can fly. And then Jade Fox is there, who is also the handmaiden, to Jen.
Yes.
She's there.
Yeah.
I think it took me a movie to put that together.
Same here.
Yeah. So she's there.
Yeah.
She's like a sworn enemy. She killed
famous thief and murderer.
And she's a poisoner.
She's killed everyone who the plot needs to have been disposed of in the past.
Yes.
Like if anyone's ever died in this part of China, it's because she killed them.
Right. Because then we also have this detective who's rolled into town with his daughter.
Very sweaty. Very sweaty.
Yeah, the detective is sweaty.
Yeah.
Love all those characters. Very sweaty.
The detective and his daughter who are posing as actors.
That line has been confusing me for like 18 years.
They're
why they
posing
say
as
it.
street performers because
like,
they think that they're trying to steal the sword. They're like, no, we were rehearsing our routine.
Yeah, and it's like,
hello, my baby. What routine is this? They paint each other silver and pretend to be robots.
Now, this movie is subtitled. Ang Lee wrote the subtitles because he wanted the subtitles to be clear and to like convey plot. And I watched this with my girlfriend who speaks Mandarin, and she was like laughing all the time. Not like she didn't think they were risible. She was just like, I can't believe that's what that became. Right? Like, and it's always like it's some idiom that just makes no sense.
Well, the movie is so cognizant about speaking to those audiences we talked to. I mean,
it is.
This was James Seamus writing with 2 Chinese writers.
Right.
Ang Lee trying to meld his new audience that he'd gained in the U.S. with, the old, I mean, this is not an explicitly Taiwanese film, but those are the movies he grew up with.
Yes.
And trying to bring both audiences to the table. And so I think that does boil down all the way to the subtitles.
But I'm so curious as to what that writing process was like too with Seamus. Like, was he writing stuff that they were sort of converting? Was he sort of speaking and they were typing it out in a different language?
He wrote all the 3 earlier Taiwanese films too. So you know James, right? You guys are pals.
Jimmy?
We're best friends.
Jimmy,
yes.
Yeah. He and I are blood brothers, and I peed next to him once. It was pretty fantastic.
Wow, how's that?
Erlich, I must ask. You got a peek of the peen? You got a peek of that Seamus peen?
I did not get a burger report. James Seamus, I'm afraid to say.
More like a hot dog report is what we're asking for.
I did not. I also, no, good guy. Interviewed him for Indignation, which is a movie that he made and I loved.
Great movie.
And I have no more insights to offer about what the writing process is.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
I met Seamus at a cocktail party, and I said, when are you going to cut it with the popcorn fair like Indignation and do something with some real depth?
He must have laughed.
He did.
Seamus is good
He
for a
gave me a
joke.
comedy point.
He's good on Twitter too.
Yeah.
He's kind of fun on Twitter.
He also told me I was right about Hulk.
I know. We'll talk about that on the Hulk episode.
Yes. By the way, James Seamus is going to be the guest on every episode we have for the rest of this miniseries.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
If only you
I'm
could
going to
see
ask
his
him about
bow
Tony
ties.
Leung's balls.
Ooh.
Less caution. More like balls caution.
I wonder if James Seamus made the cut to be in the room during those
During the ball
close
scenes?
sex scenes. Yeah, it was a very tight list, and I don't know if Seamus.
Yeah,
Seamus cut it.
he might have insisted. I don't know. Maybe it was in his rider.
Oh boy, I don't know if that's what they mean by inclusion writers.
Wait a second, I just got an email. James Seamus has dropped out of the next 6 episodes.
I
that
told
he
you it was a
supposed to.
mistake to loop him in live
Yes.
to this episode.
Yeah, but we've been doing it for 3 years, and he didn't have a problem until now.
Oh, weird. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, he's been in from the beginning. He was like Star Wars prequels.
Look, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
WeTransfer makes sharing big files easier than, I don't know, storming a castle to get the final key. No sign-ins,
No avatars.
no offer codes,
No password to forget.
no cost.
You just upload the file, you send it, and you get back to making whatever it is you make, such as solid gold podcasts.
I thought we were going to do a bit where we went back and forth, and I would list a real thing, and you'd list a Ready Player One specific.
I know, but then I just sort of like got hooked by what WeTransfer actually does.
Here's the thing. WeTransfer is all about making the creative process easier for everyone. Everyone. They built their site to be the simplest way to share big files around the world for free.
You know, I've used other file sharing things in the past, and you got to log in, and you got to like, you know, attach an email account or something.
Get out of here with all that stuff.
You
There's no
gotta download
sign
an
in,
app.
no
Nope.
offer codes, no password to forget. Just upload, send, get back to making what you make.
So you
Like making that sweet love.
40 million people use it every month to send and receive files. They devote 30% of their ad space to showcasing creative people from around the world. It's like people like, you know, musicians, photographers, or podcasters.
Yeah, you know, so in that spirit, we're skipping the rest of the 60-second ad and getting right back into the podcast.
WeTransfer.com. You make WeTransfer.
Can we talk about that fight scene?
Yes!
What a fight scene!
The
Ben's
fight scene's
angry. Sorry, I
incredible.
blew up the mic again.
How does the fight scene play out? You've got Jade Fox, who's got poison darts and stuff.
Oh no, she's not super
Oh, yeah,
relevant.
she's
to
not in the
this
first fight.
Not in
Yeah,
this first
right.
one.
No, yeah, no.
No.
It's all
Because they think
sword thievery. They think it's her.
What you
That's the
have
Jade Fox.
are 2 actresses who have spent a year of their lives preparing to dance with weapons in incredibly close quarters.
How do they do this shit?
It's insane, but like when you watch an American movie
Right.
and, you know, especially after watching something like this and are just
There's a ton of
gobsmacked at how
coverage.
awful the action is.
Yeah,
It's because you just don't have the talent required to pull it off.
or
Stunt
the
doubles
time.
can't do
Or the time.
Time's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you know, Zhang Ji was, I don't know if her for dancing training was, you know, in mind of eventually having this career, but Michelle Yeoh is certainly,
Right.
because like in that industry, this is as important a skill set as anything else that you might bring to the table for a film.
It's like the old Hollywood system where it's like you had to learn how to tap dance, you had to learn how to sing.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
if
you're
you
right,
wanted
you're
to be
right.
an actor, you had to know the couple of things.
No, yeah, the
you
length-
know, fencing, you know?
The length of the takes for the action
Is
sequences.
I mean, that's
are-
what pushes this movie over the edge.
It's
Yeah.
just completely. I just don't understand
and
how
Yoon
it's
Woo
really
Ping
possible.
had time too. I mean, he,
Yeah. Right.
you know, choreographing it had a time that he had never really had before, and so he like busted out the big guns, all like the kicks that he had been holding in his back pocket for all
Yeah.
those years. He was like, oh, the thing where we do like a top down shot and you're jumping and kicking and she's jumping and kicking, then you're both jumping and kicking. Like this is the one.
Well, as
fucking
you
crazy.
said, Xi Zhang had no martial arts background, only a dance background, and she just approached all of this like a dance routine. Like that's how she learned it, which works really well because it is so much about like the grace of the movements and everything. What we were talking about with like the time and energy that is not usually given to this sort of choreography, especially more and more as things become action and fight based, but the actual quality of those fights is prioritized less and less. I read some interview with fucking Iron Fist where they were asking him about like how much time,
like the worst choreographed martial arts thing I've ever seen.
Right, and they asked him like, so how much like rehearsal did you have to do like choreography? And he was like, they pretty much like on the morning when I got to set, they'd show me what the fight was, and I'd have like 30 minutes to learn. Yeah, and it's just like, so you hired a guy who doesn't have a martial arts background, and then would just come up with something on the day.
It's almost like TV is stupid.
Yeah,
the only guys
TV's for losers.
The only guys who are thinking about this with that level of depth, at least in the Western world, are the guys who are doing John Wick 2, Atomic Blonde. That their whole company is based around the action, built
and
up.
Also, I mean, Walt Becker, the choreography of his nut shots is really.
I thought that was understood. I didn't realize I had to explicitly.
That's the, you can tell
that's
that
just like saying the sky is blue.
Any cast member of a Walt Becker film has to spend a year training to get properly hit in the nuts.
This is why Shaq retired a few years earlier than he might have otherwise, because he had to prepare for grown-ups too. That's a Walt Becker joint, right? No,
you're thinking Dennis Dugan.
Oh fuck,
that's a Dugan.
How could I ever confuse them?
I know. How dare you? Yeah, the Chad Stahelski, David Leitch school. I like that because again, they want you to see the whole stunt. Yeah. Like this, they want to see the whole fight. Like, but like, what I like about John Wick and shit, where they're like, we want you to get that like a guy just got hit by a car.
Right.
Like, Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix, where he met Yi Ping.
I know.
Yeah. The other guy I like a lot, who we've talked about in the past, is Himes, his son, who does the Universal Soldier direct-to-video movies.
Right, which I've never seen. I know you've
he
sang their
choreographs
praises.
and shoots action in a very similar way, which is even more astounding because he's working on crazy, limited
tiny budgets
and schedules.
Because he has action choreography, but not a screenplay.
Right. But he hires a lot of like MMA fighters for like primary roles in the movie because he's like, I want to be able to do a long take of
But
this.
the grace of the fighting in this scene, or in this film as a whole, is especially meaningful because these fight scenes are, with one exception, not about violence.
Right.
They are about self-expression.
Right.
Which
is where the dance thing like pays off. But also he does such a good job of like building this sort of language of the flying, where the first couple times it's just like, they jumped and they stayed in the air a little too long.
It still looks a little
magical.
There are a few shots in this first fight scene where they're like paddling their legs over houses and they miss like Michelle Yeoh misses.
Like 11-year-old Griffin was laughing and like 29-year-old Griffin was crying.
Yes, I agree. I love that. I know what you mean though. Right. It's not like clean in some ways because there are people pulling fucking strings.
But they did pointedly like put a lot of time and energy into CGIing out the wires, which like the sort of schlockier versions of these movies, the joke was that you could always see the wires. Right. And in this, there's something magical about the fact that even though the movements, the motions clearly look like wire pulls, there's nothing sort of propelling.
You got Tan Dunn going like dun, 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 dun,
damn right.
It's
wild and out.
And people in the club are like
oh man. This scene. I was over. It was game over.
So you're just
scene.
sold. You got Inspector Psy, everyone's favorite character.
Yeah.
He's always fucking up.
Yeah.
He's such an idiot.
Yeah.
He's such a bum, this guy. He's such a crumb bum.
Yeah. He always has to ask one more thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's like a poor police investigator. Yeah. I don't know, who is he?
He's the Columbo of Wuxia.
But he's like shitty.
Yeah, he's bad.
Like who's a shitty Columbo? Like he's like Kojak. Kojak's okay. All right.
Disrespecting my man Kojak. Rosewood, maybe?
You talking about Morris Chestnut?
No, old Rosewood.
Oh, okay. All right.
Rizzoli and Isles.
Hey,
he's just like one of them.
Hey, those are fine
because they're fine together. But like Isles, like it's like Samson without the hair.
Were they detectives? I thought they were lawyers.
I don't know.
Or was that Franklin and Bash?
Franklin and Bash are lawyers. Rizzoli and Isles are detectives.
They are?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look it up.
We all knew this episode was going to come to a point where we'd have to pause to Google Rizzoli and Isles.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi went out. We're never going to find out.
That's the one that Kumail was on, right?
Kumail was on Franklin and Bash.
Oh, fuck. So who was on Rizzoli and Isles?
Fucking Angie Harmon and the other one, Sasha Alexander.
Who was their nerd? Who was their fucking computer jockey?
Something or other. The Wi-Fi went down.
Jeez. Ben.
We're flying blind.
Ben.
Turn it on.
Turn it on, Ben.
All right. I'll unplug the router.
Oh boy. All right, so that's the big fight. What happens in this big
The
fight?
sword is stolen.
Well, yeah.
Green Destiny, baby.
It's so cool. You're right about the fights being. You never feel a lot of danger in the fights, which is why it's. What happened?
I just Googled bones. I was trying to look up the show, and I realized that's a very ridiculous search.
Just bones. You just got a lot of bones.
Anyway, continue.
I'm just realizing this is a hard movie to describe because
Yes.
so much of what you're trying to describe is like mind-boggling physical interaction.
She's still sword, and then everyone's plans are sort of put on hold. Like Li Mu Bai can no longer retire, even though he's trying to get rid of the sword. And
Yes.
Shulyan has a new job, and Jen is just like hanging out there, and immediately is the one and only suspect.
Yeah,
and
and then Jen's gives her calligraphy, gives herself.
I mean,
away.
the calligraphy scene is art.
Yes, it
This is beautiful. But they also
She said she
have-
spent as much time practicing the calligraphy as she did the sword fighting.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they also they make a wanted sign for the Jade Fox, who they suspect stole a sign, and it's funny hearing James Seamus sort of like slap his forehead about this on the commentary. But it's still supposed to be a mystery who Jade Fox is at that point in the
Sure.
movie,
Right.
And the wanted sign is just like a perfect
So
illustration.
accurate.
Great picture of her.
Yeah.
Right, because it's supposed to be plausible that this young-ish bandit
Right.
with like creamy porcelain skin.
It's like a headshot of the older actress. It's
Right.
just like here she is.
Right, in ink.
Aren't they even surprised at the beginning, some characters, to hear that Jade Fox is a woman?
Yes.
Like they just assumed it was a man, and now suddenly it's a very specific woman who we all know. But yes, Jen is trying to like get away from her life. This marriage she doesn't want, this sort of life of aristocracy she has no interest in. She wants to be like the characters in the books that she grew up reading.
And there's some of them were of the Shulyan vein, but I think a lot of them were probably men. I mean, she's realizing now that she's being forced into this marriage with Governor Yu or whoever the fuck she's marrying. No, not Governor Yu.
She hates the name. I can't remember the name.
Gao.
I think it's that.
Who is eventually played by like the first AD in like one long shot.
Yeah.
Is like she's realizing the burden of being a woman in that particular society and all that it portends.
But so like the idea is that the Jade Fox, while on the run, was like, let me just like hide out, get a very simple, quiet handmaiden job, and then suddenly was like the one person that Jen had access to who could train her.
Yeah.
Which was just like she became a disciple. She became a bandit because that was like the only path she had to.
Yeah, she's
become
bitter
a
as hell.
badass.
She wanted to be a Wudan fighter, and she went there, and they were, the teacher was willing to have sex with her, but not willing to teach her.
Yeah.
And so she was understandably bitter and wanted to pass that along.
Yeah.
Lee Thompson Young is the nerd in Rizzoli and Isles.
Oh.
Lorraine Bracco and Bruce McGill are also in it, though.
Lee Thompson Young killed himself.
Did he? I'm so sorry,
Famous
Lee
Jet
Thompson
Jackson?
Young.
Well, I'm glad my Harry Knowles reference was not the most depressing detour this podcast
right.
has made.
Wow, that's sad.
Because I remember reading the story about him not showing up to set.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He was
Lee
the famous
Thompson
Jet
Young.
Jackson, right?
Yes, he was.
I
Yes,
saw him on the
exactly.
subway once. He looked really sad.
Thanks for that.
I was like, why is Jet Jackson so sad?
The famous Jet Jackson.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. So anyway, they didn't
There
have
are a
to
lot
go
before the
that
second
journey.
fight scene. There are a lot of conversations that I think harken back to the kind of King Hu movies that in the classical kung fu things that we're expecting. They're
Give it to
talking
me.
a lot about the various elemental rules and the philosophy of everything.
Right.
They're saying like a sword by itself rules nothing. It comes alive only through skillful manipulation. And they're talking in very veiled terms about their feelings for one another and sussing each other out. There's a
that
lot of that.
conversation where Jen is like coveting the sword, and Michelle Yeoh's like, it's a lot less pretty when it's covered in blood, you know?
And then he like Li Mu Bai talks about like how it only looks good because it's easily washable, essentially.
Yeah.
Like the blood comes off real smooth.
Yeah.
But
It's like made out of vibranium.
it's made
It
out
is
of
cuts
vibranium.
through other fucking swords.
It's also just right. Jen is obsessed with this sword because I guess she just thinks it's like her salvation, right?
Yeah.
Getting the sword. She doesn't get that she's already.
She thinks it's a trump card. Like, if I have
Yeah.
this, they can't question
beat me. Right. Whereas, I mean, that scene where he kicks
Gotta
her ass with a
respect me.
stick is so good.
But I also
Yeah.
love that Jen worships Shulyan.
Yeah.
Right.
And like that first fight scene is between the two of them. And Shulyan doesn't know who she's fighting, but Jen does. And she's
Right.
like, holy shit, I'm in one of those stories that I've
Right.
dreamed of my whole life.
Right.
It's very Last Action Hero.
So they fight.
Very Jack Slater 3.
So there's that initial fight that's just Jen and Shulyan, right?
the stealing of the sword.
The stealing of the sword. Then
But she also she fucking the detective gets killed, right?
Well, that's
No,
that's
that's
the second fight.
That's the second
second
fight.
fight.
We do get a quick look at Cheng Chen though, who ends the fight with a blow dart and then
Yeah.
just slinks back
Right.
into the darkness, and you're like, huh,
Who's
that's
that?
odd.
Huh.
Guess we'll
Guess we'll
ignore
revisit that.
Yeah.
Right, because she catches it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is cool.
Dark Cloud.
Dark Cloud. But anyway, so then, there is a little bit of like, oh, you guys are actors? Well, actually, I'm a cop from the mountains seeking the avenge.
So what kind of stuff have you been in? Have I seen you in anything?
Rush Hour
You and
2.
Tag?
So those guys get introduced. They're cannon fodder, right?
Yeah.
They're blow dart fodder.
But
Mm.
two of them fuck.
You're right.
Yes.
Totally off screen.
yeah.
But dumbass Inspector Sai
Yeah.
and the daughter, May,
Forged in the heat of battle.
after the death of her father, he's
Yeah.
like standing watch outside her house.
Yeah.
He's being nice. And she's like, just come on in.
Yeah.
You know?
Just why don't you come inside and it's a little bit warmer in here.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, let's.
No one's dead in here.
Right.
No one's got a thing in their head in here.
So it's that second fight, which also rules
I
in
love
like
that-
the courtyard.
I love
Yeah.
that Detective Sai looks like dollar store Chow Yun-fat too.
He does.
Like he's styled the same way. He's just got like a shittier black robe.
But can someone explain to me, and this is something that has eluded me for 18 years now, why he is tied to the rock when he like runs out into the courtyard
No
and
idea.
he has to like pull back?
Joanna asked this question too. I don't know. It's like, I think he has like a grappling hook and he used it wrong or
Right.
something. Like I think he's got some cool Batman thing he just doesn't know how to use. But
Backfires on him.
it totally flies over my head. Like,
It's like we're missing a shot
exactly,
where he like
when
put it
that's
on.
introduced, right?
So is Joanna fluent?
Yeah.
And she was saying like a lot of the sort of line readings, the accent clashing.
What she said was
Yeah.
essentially, and of course, she's still a white lady, but she does, she lived in China for many years. She speaks Mandarin. It's like, she's like, it's not that bad, Michelle Yeoh, on her own.
Sure.
She's just talking. But then once she's talking to someone else, it does stick out like a sore
It's the
thumb.
fact that everyone's doing a different thing. Right? I mean, that's the real thing.
And she said with Chow Yun-fat, she's not as good at like detecting accents.
Sure.
But yes, like he sounds different.
Because he himself says that his accent's terrible in this movie.
Right. And he
He's,
also
like,
said
very
like he'd
embarrassed.
never had to do so many takes over the language before.
Right.
Like probably because he mostly had to do lots of takes over stunt work or whatever before.
I'm just fascinated by the fact that, like, weirdly somehow, I think the seeming authenticity of this movie became its greatest asset. That it didn't feel like a westernized version of a wuxia epic. That it was like a heightened sort of more intellectual version, more emotional version of it. But like that Eastern audiences saw it and they were like, oh, the accents all clash. But the fact that like we dumb Americans don't know what they're saying makes it feel
Right.
like it has more integrity and weight to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean, this-
backhanding the movie.
No, I mean,
I
this
just
is
think-
always how it goes.
Right.
There are movies that have done phenomenally well overseas that we would dismiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like The Artist was kind of viewed that way when it started doing so well here.
Yeah,
and
the French
everyone
people
in
are like,
France
we
were
made this
like,
as a joke.
Yeah, right. This is the guy who made our Austin Powers analog.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, obviously there are so many historical films that take place in different countries where everyone just speaks English. And I imagine that in China, that's how this movie played. You know? Like, it was like, why are all these German people in World War II
It's funny
speaking
that-
English with British accents?
It's funny that Zhang Zi was then in Memoirs of a Geisha, which has an even worse
I know.
problem.
Oy,
Right.
oy.
Oy. I mean, obviously, way worse.
Yeah.
Do you know that most of that movie was shot in San Francisco?
No. I didn't know that.
I can tell because that movie was getting hyphy.
Yeah, that's usually how I bring that up at parties.
-5 comedy points.
Ben gave me a thumbs up. That's
Yeah.
all I need.
Completely over my head.
Someday.
I'm going to listen back to this episode.
Yeah,
and
I
see
will
if I
not
can...
take up real estate explaining this.
Yeah, please don't.
So, Sword is Stolen.
Sword is stolen. Cop gets a spinny
Thing in the face.
spinny blade to
Yeah.
the face. I just love how everyone in this movie has just gone all in on X weapon,
Yeah.
except
yeah.
for the main characters.
And Chow Yun-fat does this thing with the Green Destiny where he like
I love
shakes
it when
like
he
a
shows
snake.
up. Oh my god!
And you're like 35 minutes into the movie and you haven't seen him fight. And the
Right,
entire
and he's-
first 35 minutes of the movie are people talking about how good he is at fighting.
Yeah.
And then he shows up and it takes like 3 moves and you're like, oh shit, that guy is good at fighting.
You know what? The ballest move he has in this movie is when who is it? The Jade Fox does the 5-point thing to paralyze him, and Chow Yun-fat's like, "Don't worry, I know the reverse code." Like he hits him like he's a fucking keypad, and he's like unparalyzed.
I mean, the movie is really unashamed at playing into these cliches and sort of giving them new life.
Yes,
because there's no one like James Seamus, Ang Lee, they all are celebrating how much of an unrealistic cliche this is, how it's built into a lot of the movies to which they're paying homage. And they just own it. They're like, we can throw it into this prestige picture that's cost however much it costs.
20 million.
It's actually not that expensive. But I guess relative to the other movies.
It's a lot of money for this kind of movie.
And they're like, but we're just going to own it with a straight face.
What?
He's all stillness.
What's your favorite weapon in the movie? I throw to the table because I have a clear-cut answer.
There's a lot of weapons in this movie.
Can I tell you what mine is?
Yes.
Michelle Yeoh's weird candy cane claw sort of things.
Those are so cool.
The
I mean, that's such a
coolest.
That whole fight. I also like it when
That's
she
the
just
best fight
gets
in the
a
movie for
curtain
me.
rod and starts wailing on her with like a golden curtain rod.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But no, I feel like there's another obvious one. I mean, I like bowling ball guy. Like the guy who's like dumbbells like broken in half.
Yeah.
Just because, like,
that's
he has
the
to
restaurant
carry,
scene.
Yeah, he has to carry them everywhere.
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh's staff that like bends in that same fight scene with the red feather on the top is pretty badass.
Yeah.
Also,
spinning
as
blade things are
Sims
cool.
mentioned, Chow Yun-fat's stick.
Yeah, the stick scene's great.
Chow Yun-fat's dick? I didn't see him take it out in the movie.
He's just swatting her with it. It's pretty good.
He's teaching her a great lesson. Which is that all you need is a stick, I guess. Yeah.
All you need is a stick.
All right, so she's got
the
this
scene where he sings that.
Jade Fox shows up in this battle, and she sees her stooge, her apprentice, doing wild shit.
Yeah.
You see it on Jade's face. By the way, this actress is wonderful, Chang Pei Pei.
Had never played a villain before, and she's like pure evil here.
She's but also like you're so on her side.
Yeah.
She got so fucked over.
Oh, yeah. You're blowing up my spot here. I told you to lay low.
And like, right. But then, and like immediately Li Mu Bai's hitting her with the like, you whore, you slept with my master or whatever.
Yeah,
he's like, you infiltrated. He puts it a little more delicately. Like he's like, you infiltrated the Wudang school or whatever. Yeah. She's like, I was sleeping with your guy until he kicked me to the curb. He wouldn't teach me the secrets.
Yeah, he puts it delicately. He calls her a trollop instead of a whore.
I love when later in the movie Jen refers to the Wudang school as a whorehouse, and it's like, you've been listening to that woman for way too long.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. She is a little parody. But I feel for Jade Fox.
I do too.
I feel like she got fucked over
Victim
by
of
the
circumstance.
rules. And that scene a little later where Li Mu Bai is doing his classic thing where he just stands in the middle of a room, not moving,
one arm behind his back,
while he has a conversation, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe we should have her join the Wudang school." And Shilian's just like, "But the women can't join," and he's like, "Yeah, in this case, we should make an exception, I think, or else she'll be a poison dragon." And she's just like, "Yeah, no, chill. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, she'd be a poison dragon. That'd be bad. Yeah." Not like just a repressed person who just like doesn't do anything with her life.
Right. Would have been nice if you made one exception earlier.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, no, now's the time for the exception. You're right. Yeah, definitely.
Bit of a yaddle. Michelle Yeoh, bit of a yaddle.
And he's just like staring off into the distance, contemplating endless sorrow,
Yeah. And he's like, I'll just touch your face again. Touch my face again. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That scene, we'll get there. But
it's so brutal. Anyway.
But yeah, so they have this fight. This guy who, is invincible 1 second, suddenly cannot catch a spinning blade to the face the next.
He sees it coming.
Gets it right in the brain.
To give him some credit, he does catch it in between his eyes.
Yes.
Right.
He catches it perfectly.
But in a movie
in the
that's
middle of his face.
Quite bloodless, there's two moments of blood.
Right.
That, and then when the guy has like blood coming out of his mouth
which is great.
Jen hits him in the face.
But
that one shot of him going like,
yeah,
I really like.
And then there's the great bit where Michelle Yeoh confirms that Jen is the thief by knocking the thing off the table.
God, I love that.
Whereas Li Mu Bai's move is like he kind of like blows some magic wind at her and it like flaps her thing up for a second.
Oh yeah. But he would never. I mean, that's in like a mini fight scene later.
Yeah.
He would never embarrass her or like lower her to removing her mask, because this whole movie is about people coming to grips with who they are and what's important to them, and unmasking someone else in that way and like forcing them would be a rape of some kind. I mean, it would be in the parlance of this movie.
The other thing I love about the teacup scene is that like much like most martial arts films, this is like a very sound effects kind of Foley heavy film where you're hearing the swishes and the clangs and the whoops and everything. That teacup thing is like silent. Because the whole point is how effortlessly, automatically she's able to just like catch it and stop any sort of clank from happening.
Very, very Peter Parker.
Yeah, and then
That's true.
the shots of the knowing looks.
I
That's
love
the
the
thing,
knowing
like,
looks.
Ang Lee's
This
so
movie is
good
50% like super action and 50% knowing looks,
Oh, yeah.
right?
because of how good Ang Lee is at getting like emotional restraint out of his actors. His
A lot of
close-ups are so fucking effective because you just watch people thinking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Silent acknowledgments.
We've talked about his body language, his mastery of body language.
loves body
He loves
language.
body language. He gets it exactly right. He commands his actors to do very specific things. David, Erlich, hi.
Hey, so are we at the flashback now?
I think we're about at that point. Yeah.
Because we got to figure out who Jen is.
Yeah.
So Lo, aka Dark Cloud, comes into her bedroom and he says,
Sounds like a bad
"Run away with
PlayStation
me."
2 game. Wasn't it a bad PlayStation 2 game?
Dark Cloud.
They turned this into
No, but like not
terrible
Crouching
video
Tiger,
game.
but Dark Cloud.
It was
think
Dark
the Dark
Souls.
Souls.
Well,
Yeah.
Dark Souls is a phenomenal PlayStation 3 game.
Right.
But
You're right. It's a bad PlayStation 2
Wow.
game.
Hey!
It's an RPG. Ooh, it looks like Zelda, but shit.
Yeah.
Did you have the Crouching Tiger game?
No, I played it though because my friend Josh, who was so like he went all in on. He bought the soundtrack and that like second soundtrack that's like more like Yo-Yo Ma rarities. I don't know. Like I don't know what was on it.
Because Merchandise Spotlight, do you know there was a line of toys for this movie?
Of course.
Which is insane because it was like 2 years after a Sony Pictures Classics film had come out. It had made such a cultural impact that there were like Crouching Tiger toys at RIP Toys R Us.
It's like if there were like Call Me By Your Name toys in like
Right.
2019.
Call Me By Your Name became like a major blockbuster. And then like 2
like an
years...
acrylic peach.
Right, but like so often with like movies, it's either like you have the merchandise out before the movie comes out or like 20 years later when it's become like a cult
Did
thing.
you get your action figure yet? Is this a sore subject?
Do you
Is this
think-
the sorest of subjects?
Do you think
It's a real point of frustration.
by
But-
August you will have gotten an action figure though? On the record.
Okay. When's this episode coming out? August or July?
Mid-August. August 13th, I think.
I had been told that there is something that should be releasing by holiday season of 2018. So I would hope that it would be revealed by the time this episode's coming out. But who knows? I keep on waiting for them to pull the rug out from under me. But I've heard they plan to have something for sale December 2018.
Okay.
I'm going to show Erlich a picture while you guys keep talking.
So
Just to add to the merch spotlight, there's a porn parody of this movie.
What is
And-
it? Crouching Penis.
It's
Give us the
Crouching
title.
Tiger, Hidden Penis.
The penis is hidden.
Usually in porn, the penis is not so hidden.
Well, but in good porn,
Do they shoot the porn, do you know, with the same sort of emotional restraint that they shoot the films?
Ang Lee
Lots of, like,
directed the
furtive
porn
looks.
as well. Yeah.
And,
It's
like,
got a lot of knowing looks.
but it's like just between a penis and a vagina just staring at each other from across. Oh, wow.
Right?
That's off-putting, but also like very realistic. I mean,
It's very weird.
It's the neck is what's throwing
The
me.
neck is weird.
But I think without the neck,
I showed you this already. I'm showing
Yeah,
showing
the neck
David's
thing is really weird.
Just
a
on
picture
a-
of my head sculpted.
it looks like a penis a little bit, but like once on a body,
Yeah.
on like a plastic body, look good.
Yeah, I keep on
Photoreal.
it's
Good.
photoreal. They got the pores right. I just keep on waiting for them to be like, never mind.
Never mind.
Canceled due to complete lack of interest.
I'm
Oh.
interested.
I'm interested
I
too.
might buy an action figure of you.
Oh yeah, you would.
Yeah. And I don't buy action figures.
You guys
Oh,
should
yeah,
have
yeah,
blank check. What if there are blank check action figures before there are the tick
That's-
action
I mean,
figures?
look,
As part
I
of the,
think Griffin would be
I'd
fine
take
with
that as
that.
a win. I
Right.
don't care.
I think Griffin's just
Oh.
like, yo, let me be an
you
action
got like a
figure.
pull string
Right.
Hosley. He's just like,
Yeah. What?
you can sort of like you just do an ad when you pull it.
That is totally what would happen. We get contacted by some toy company about wanting to merchandise blank
Ben.
check. Yeah, they'd only want to make Ben dolls. And they make like 1,000 Bens. They make a different one for each nickname.
Right, yeah.
They make one with ham, like with a magnifying glass holding a piece of ham.
Make like an audio boom Terradome, and then you.
Yeah. Oh, I combine the meat lover and the fart detective.
Flashback.
There's my yawn. Yes, flashback.
Flashback. We get in the middle of this movie, drops the hammer, a 20-ish minute flashback,
which rules,
to like the most remote shooting location on the face of
in
the earth,
fucking Gobi Desert,
in the middle of nowhere.
And it totally rules. It starts with
it totally rules.
I mean,
it has like my favorite shot of all time.
Which one's that?
Well, going up the ridge
Oh,
and
yeah.
then like seeing the whole like
what a
group
character
of horses.
intro.
Seriously,
You got the comb. You got
that comb.
You love that comb. You were tweeting about that comb.
fucking love that comb, man.
It looks like a good comb.
It's like second. It's like second
comb's hair.
MacGuffin. I mean, there's like a
It's
whole other
true.
movie here.
it's a jade comb too, isn't it? It's also
Sure.
green. Yeah.
Sure. You get one of the great meet cutes of all time when he steals it on
Steals her
horseback, and she's
While raiding her caravan.
and she's immediately sorry. We're going.
No, I've tried that a bunch of times and it doesn't work.
You've raided some caravans.
Yeah, well, no.
You wait for a girl
Have you-
to be in a caravan.
No, I'm not that gross, please.
Have
okay?
you grown your hair out like that? Because
Yes,
that's
I
important.
had a
you-
bad phase in high school. You don't want to see the pictures. I'm not even joking.
We
no,
definitely
I would,
want to see
I would never raid a caravan.
Right, you just steal a comb.
I go to the bar and steal some combs.
and then hopefully, like pretty women chase you.
Yo, girl, let me get that comb.
She follows Lo, who doesn't then hang out with his bandits. He just goes across the desert to one of his hidey hole caves.
Yeah.
Well, he is
I know,
hanging
you're
out with
right.
his
He goes
bandits.
to the bandits
They're
first.
like
She shows up and kicks a bunch of ass.
right.
Right.
Because she's already like 4
good.
years into
Yeah.
training at
Oh,
this
she
point.
is all of this. This is like the invitation that she has been waiting for
Right.
her entire life. And he goes after her. And it's only because like she pursues him, because otherwise it could seem a little rapey in the way that like they come together in
Yes.
his little cave. But
It's true.
it's really the way that like she pursues him, and then he has to get his property back and take care of her, and knocks her out, and then things go from there. But
But
Right, but he's very nice. He's like,
he sings that very catchy song,
Take a
which
bath. He
they
sings a
build
sexy song.
into the score. When you first cut to the caravan, you hear like na 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 na. It's really subtle, but it's great.
Chang Chen, who was like a child star. He's in A Brighter Summer Day.
Yeah. Oh.
And
When's the Edward Yang cast?
Let's
Next.
fucking do it. Brighter Summer Podcast.
Yang, then Flickman.
A podcast and a podcast. I don't know.
I do think
Podcastian confusion. I don't know.
you make a good point though, because like he shows up and you're like, okay, here's like the Wuxia version of like a biker gang, right?
Sure.
And then very quickly it's like, no, those are kind of like my work friends. I don't really like.
he's
we
like,
might get
come
drinks and
on.
sit by a fire
Right,
like
but
once a month.
I like to chill in my cave.
Right. I'm not really that. I separate like my personal life from my career.
Am I the only one who thinks that cave life seems really relaxing?
Yeah, why don't they just
Really-
stay in the
Really
cave?
into it.
I'm
Ben's into
Love a good dark place.
But like also having
Hole.
all of your worldly possessions just in
Yeah.
this one cave, and it's like no one's gonna come bother you.
It
You can
feels
take
safe.
a lady back there, give her a
Right.
bath. Yeah.
Spoiler
He
alert
has
for
to
the.
bring a lot of water, though. We don't see that part.
Spoiler alert for the Tomb Raider movie that came out 6 months ago that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
There's a point where they find a character who's been hiding in a cave for like 5 years. And I'm like, just stay there. It feels like you got to figure it out.
He's going a little crazy, though. He doesn't have Chang Chen to like give him a bath and rub his shoulders.
No, I just would love to live in a cave.
Dark Cloud hears that Trump was elected and then decides to go off the grid.
That's the thing. I'd love to live in a cave and be like, no Wi-Fi access. You cannot check Twitter.
And there was a New York Times article about him. This is a callback to an
I know.
article that we have all forgotten about by August.
Yeah, thank God.
Caves have good ambiance too.
Yeah, of course.
Like
They
a
do.
house doesn't really make like great noises.
Weird
but
echoey
you got-
noises.
You got dripping.
Caves are kind of chilly, too. Like a
Yeah.
nice sort of natural coolness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're often big and wet.
Big and wet.
Oh, there's some wet scenes here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of focus on her mouth.
Yep.
It's like prior to Lost Caution, far and away the most sensual thing that
Yeah.
Ang Lee had ever filmed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not since he filmed a duck having water poured down its throat in Eat, Drink, Man, Woman has he
been so fucking hot.
erotically shot.
But it's also
Greg Wise is pretty fucking hot in Sense and Sense. Go ahead.
So I was just say it's also mythic because the way the tone that the movie is established by this point, like they feel each other out. It's very
They sure
romantic
do feel
comedy.
each other
Oh,
out.
Yeah.
It's all very like adversarial romantic comedy. Like then they commit to loving each other, and then
They
it's
see
like
each other's butts.
they see each other's butts, and then boom, that's all they need
They're like,
to be
"Good
riding
butt."
on horseback together,
Good butt.
like in a romantic fable. There are 2 great butts here, 4 great cheeks.
Also a good. Also a great virginity loss. Where it's like, how'd you lose your virginity? Prom night. It was a little awkward. How'd you lose your? I got kidnapped and went to a cave.
I was
and-
seeing Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
sexy bandit called Dark Cloud. Classic. Just standard teen romance.
And they're like, oh, did you do the walk of shame home the next day? No, he took me to the most beautiful waterfall on earth, and in soft focus told me a myth about a kid jumping off a mountain.
Also, I proceed to live in that cave for several more weeks. Months? How long is she gone for?
Shulian's really polite, by the way. Yeah, because like when Jen is like, you're really cool with all your adventures. Like, she should be like, yeah, what about when you got kidnapped by a bandit?
Yeah.
And you were in the desert. What happened there?
Love.
And instead she's just like, no, it's no big deal.
Well, it's so underplayed that it's so ingrained in the choices that they have to make that she is living off the grid in a cave, but they can't be happy and like be themselves when her father's men are always on the prowl looking for her. And they're both just like, after presumably just boning for a while, they're just like, well, I got to go back. Like, hopefully we can make this work one day. And Dark Cloud's like, I'm going to be rich and I'm going to prove your parents that I'm worth it.
I know, where he's just like, what if I became the greatest bandit of all time? Would they like me then? And she's kind of like, let's see. Like, I don't know.
She's like, have you considered law school? I mean,
This is like the best plan. It was like, how I'm like a famous bandit, but like A-list famous. That's marriageable, right?
I'm imagining the spin-off Greatest Bandit musical now.
Is he? He's in the sequel. I've seen the sequel.
No one has seen this.
I saw
no
it.
one's seen.
I
That's not
reviewed
true.
it.
You're lying. You've not seen it.
I don't remember it at all.
It doesn't exist.
Obviously, like Chow Yun-fat is not in it. I mean,
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Michelle Yeoh is in it.
She is, but I remember it being a pretty small role. Donnie
Ziyi
Yen,
Zhang said she wouldn't do it unless it was Ang Wei.
Donnie Yen is the star, and then Harry Shum Jr. from Glee is like the second lead.
One of my favorite martial artists.
I remember it being weird.
But yeah, we have this beautiful flashback, and she goes back, and we are back to where we were. And Jen's like, cool story, you got to go away.
Right. And who's hiding in the crowds now? Dark Cloud.
Dark Cloud in the crowds.
Right, so he's back.
Now that we've set him up.
He's like, let's get married.
Yeah.
And she's like,
that's another bit with the dart in the parade, and he like fires the dart in her carriage, and it's like, she looks at the dart like there's... I'm not sure what she's thinking.
I know. Well, that's it. Yeah, it's like after all that time, his move is, okay, I'm going to wait, bide my time, bye. And then when she's getting married and the procession is happening, I'll just kind of like jump down and be like, please marry me. like sort of like not tactically sound.
And then he like goes to Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat. It's like, so has she said anything about me?
How'd that work? Is that making waves?
Did that feel chill?
I love how Li Mu Bai is like, all right, bro, like let's talk about this. And then Shulian drops in. She's like, no. Come
over
here.
No.
I know, which
Don't talk to
I just
this
love
guy.
it. Right, where he's like,
eight rules to dating our teenage
like,
daughter. We'll give it to you. Come over here.
Oh, so you have a crush on her? This is what you should do. Stand stoically and never express your love. And she's like, okay, hold my beer.
Tell her that you love her as you're dying, and then carry that feeling with you into eternity.
Definitely wait until the toxin has flooded 90% of your bloodstream.
Your blood has reversed its course.
You want to only give yourself time for one kiss. Leave them wanting more.
Yeah, right.
But that's sort of what this movie is about.
Well, right, because he's all passion and excitement, and Li Mu Bai is like, you're like a space alien.
But, without necessarily endorsing repression, this movie does sort of recognize that the idea of a feeling is in some ways more pure than actually living with it.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, it's very remains of the day.
Right. Their love becomes so strong because it's like never been expressed.
Right.
Doesn't seem like
nothing is real, nothing can be tainted.
Yeah.
But like, I think Jen's having more fun. I mean, she has crazy desert adventure. She has tons of hot cave sex.
She
has like 3 awesome fight scenes.
Yeah.
She's such an interesting character. I mean, she doesn't really fall into a particular type.
A fascinating character.
Yeah.
This has never happened in a Hollywood movie.
She reminds me a lot of Christine Ladybird, whatever the fuck her last name is, McPherson.
Yes.
Yeah, just because like she is dimensional in a way that you don't often get characters of any gender.
Right, and she's a pain
in a way
in the
that
ass.
young women are not usually on screen.
She's the villain of the movie who causes all the trouble, but she's also the protagonist and the hero.
She has an adversarial relationship with the mom character, who she also loves and is indebted to.
Of course.
And she kills, and she is responsible for her father's death.
And she eats Doritos with Tracy Letts.
Doritos. Let's get a big bag of Doritos.
Doritos.
But it's amazing how much of the iconic scenes from this movie, what percentage of them are crammed to the last like 35 minutes or so.
In my mind's eye, not having seen this movie since 2000, remembered there being like 30 to 40 minutes of Chow Yun-fat has been poisoned. He's slowly dying in the cave. And instead, it's like 2 scenes. It happens like within the last 15 minutes of the movie. I remember there was fight shit going on, and they kept like cutting back to the cave, and she was like, "How you doing?" And he's like, "Quiet. Let me just breathe a little bit." Because there's that whole notion of like, let me try to lower my energy as much as possible.
Right. I'll try and hold on to this.
I remember that being like an act of the movie. But it is like the last 30 minutes are jam fucking packed.
Well, right, because there's the flashback, there's the wedding, which doesn't do great. No. After that, she's like, let me dress up as a boy and just go to a bar.
Right.
Yeah.
Start some shit.
Goes to a bar. She does like a fucking Phantom Thread order.
Right.
She practically says like, go slay a school of fish and
then
bring
she
them
like
to me.
roadhouses everyone.
Right. And then people come up. Now they're being weird because they're like, hey, what's up? What's your name?
Well, it's like
what's your name, man?
It's like she rolls into a poker club and she's like, I just won the World Series of poker. Like, I'm the best poker player in the world.
She has the sword.
Like everyone, she has the sword.
And she keeps on like fucking like.
Well, and everyone's always like, I'm Golden Iron Monkey God.
And she's
What's
like, your name's
name?
too long. Shut the fuck up.
She's like, how about this?
I mean, that scene rules in ways that I don't think humans have found the language to totally describe.
I remember that scene was her BAFTA clip.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, imagine that being an Oscar.
Love how
just taking down a whole bar.
Something I discovered in the process of preparing for this episode, how the guy who does that immortal fall off the banister is the same guy who has the abacus. And the reason he has an abacus in the next shot is when he's playing a different character ostensibly is because he had broken his arm during the fall and they still want him there. And he's like, what can I hold with one arm? All right, I'll just do math at her. Yeah. And I mean, you could beat someone pretty badly with a big abacus, but
that's so funny.
Yeah, she's a man. She can dressing in men's clothes, can finally sort of like live freely, be who she wants to be, show that she is the badass warrior that she is. And that fight scene just come on. It's a cinema.
I am the invincible sword goddess, armed with the green destiny.
Talks the whole time.
Knows no
spit
equal.
and rap game.
The other thing with this movie is like, obviously the choreography is amazing. Obviously he shoots and edits it beautifully. He also, all of these fight scenes have story beats in them. Like it's not just one-upsmanship of like, here's some crazy shit. Like even the big Michelle Yeoh Ji Zhang fight is like the story beats of Michelle Yeoh running out of weapons and having to figure out different ways to fight her, which is like the thing I love in action movies where like there are actual like character moments that accelerate and heighten and deepen the bits of actual fighting. It's fucking well
that's
done.
everything.
Yeah.
Like there's no fight scene in this movie that isn't where every beat isn't sort of expressing the characters.
But it still has the approach of like a crappy Marvel movie or whatever. Where it's like, oh well, now we should have a fight scene with weapons, I guess. Like where but it falls so smoothly and it's so perfectly built up, and it's like
what bums me out
superfluous.
In say like a lot of Marvel movies is like, okay, we've justified
like, it'll be
why
funny if these guys fight now, right? Right.
But it's like we've justified why they now need to fight, but then the fight is totally devoid of story or character. The fight is just
like a porno.
Fight.
It's like they're going to have sex now, and then they have sex.
Right. It's a porno scene.
But in this, the fight is as expressive as a screenplay. I mean, it's just like the story is continuing. Yes. It's not just being put on pause so we can sell some tickets.
Right, which I think is one of the reasons why it became such a crossover success. Because like obviously the visuals of the fights are crazy in a post-Matrix landscape. People were like, oh, let's go deeper into the sort of thing that Matrix is referencing.
Yes.
But I also think people get invested in the fights in this movie because you care about what's going on.
Of course.
Like it's not just fucking Romeo Must Die, which Jet Li took instead of this film. Do you know that?
Yeah,
he was first choice?
That was a mistake.
Yes.
It was. Romeo Must Die has that gimmick where when he kicks someone, it cuts to like an X-ray and you see their bones breaking.
I remember that.
Romeo Must Die also has a line where someone looks at him and goes, sorry, Romeo, but you gotta die.
Wait, is Romeo Must Die good?
Kind of.
But like, how does he not say Romeo?
It's Romeo and Juliet.
You must die. It's in the title.
Yeah, no, he says, sorry, Romeo, but you gotta die.
That was a mistake. Why did he do that?
I don't know.
DMX?
Sometimes
to work with DMX?
I think he thought like, look, I'm trying to make a big Hollywood career here. I can't go back and do some Chinese film. I'm trying to like cross the pond. And then this movie like outgrossed every Jet Li film. And also like Jet Li's most successful American release was Fearless, which was sort of advertised as like, if you like Crouching Tiger, here's another Chinese movie for you.
Not Danny the dog.
That's his most successful release?
The one.
I would bet that is his most successful U.S. gross.
Are you not including like
Not including
Lethal Weapon 4
or Expendables. I'm saying for a Jet Li vehicle, that certainly outgrossed the one that outgrossed Unleashed.
Box Office Mojo's being weird,
But
so
if,
I'll
you
let
know-
you know later.
That movie did weirdly well.
Yeah, okay.
In Jet Li's defense, speaking of the
He's in Hero too.
he is an hero.
Which is probably his second highest grossing domestic. I mean, those are the two. I think it's Hero and then Fearless.
But speaking of the
But those are
themes
him
of
doing
Crouching
Wuxia
Tiger,
epics, yeah.
you gotta have huge regrets in your life for it to be meaningful at the end.
Right.
So he, on his deathbed, will be able to look Ang Lee in the eye and kiss him on the lips and say, "I've always loved you."
Oh,
And
that's
should
an
have done
interesting
this movie.
point that maybe Jet Li wasn't ready to do Crouching Tiger because he hadn't yet turned down Crouching Tiger.
That is correct.
Like, having not done Crouching Tiger, he would have been prepared for the role.
So there's the fight that you just described
Which is
between
so
Jen and Julianne.
That's my
Which
favorite.
is
And we can't
my
we
favorite
can't
fight.
brush over that. I mean, it's like
No, it's
possibly
fucking great.
That's the peak of the
possibly the
movie.
greatest fight scene ever
And,
staged.
and it is also Lady Bird fighting with her mother.
Yes.
Like that's the arc of that is the arc of that scene,
Yes.
right? Like that's where at a certain point it changes from them being mad at each other to Jen being like, no, yeah, go ahead, pick a weapon.
It's also,
let's
you know,
keep doing this.
Watching the men scatter out when they get down
I
there
love
and start to
that.
fight. I mean, like, this is a movie that really, I mean, not that it did poorly. I mean, it's hard to imagine it doing this well if it came out now, but really sort of speaks to where we are in the culture now in terms of, female representation and strength.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie was tapping into things that Wonder Woman would have to like run around to 18 years later.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're right.
it's a very, even within the confines of what was allowed of women in the culture they describe, it's a very feminist, like,
It is interesting that, like, outside of Fearless and Hero getting, like, pretty wide releases and doing strong numbers, this movie kind of didn't influence anything else. You know?
well, without this movie, you don't have Hero coming out in the United States.
But that's what I'm
like,
saying.
yeah.
I mean, the only thing it influenced
But
was domestic releases of other.
but you
House of
can't
Flying
though. It's like,
Daggers.
Right.
you
Yeah,
can't.
I mean, that was a little more limited, but like,
No, that was a big hit in America.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, Zhang Yimou got to release like a trio of films
Right,
here.
Yeah.
but
First with the Golden Flower.
but like Hero was like #1 at the box office 2 weeks in a row.
But Hollywood doesn't have the ability to rip this off. Is the thing?
That's
it's
the
like
big
they
thing.
don't have the
Right.
talent. And-
Honestly, they've been trying to for like the 10 years before, not with
Yeah.
costume movies, but with like they were trying to make like the replacement killers and all that stuff, right? Where they're
Yeah.
like, can we make the killer?
Right.
Like,
I mean, they also
for
don't really
American
have.
audiences.
It's hard to find the context because in a world where martial arts was so central to
Right.
the culture, and when you're looking at like 18th century China, whenever this movie takes place, that's
Yes,
one thing. But in
17.
American context, it's hard to like justify why people are fighting each other so skillfully.
1778.
It would be really
Qing
hard for them
Dynasty.
to rip off. But greatest fight scene possibly ever staged. It's
Just chill, just super chill.
It's fucking insane. It just gets better and better and better, and they get angry. And it has that sense of vitriol that almost all the other fight scenes are deliberately missing in this
Yes,
movie.
this
where
is
they
the
are
one where
going
it's getting
for
pumped up. And then, obviously, when then we have the final fight where Jade shows back up. I mean, Jade's the one who's got all the vitriol.
it's like barely a fight. I mean, like the violence.
Yeah, but it's so
they
cool.
don't want to. I mean, it's a neat little beat, but like they don't want to make the violence into something beautiful necessarily. It's
No.
It's like this is.
well, you know what? If they didn't want to make it beautiful, then they shouldn't have started flying on top of trees.
Well, there's the tree scene in between.
oh, the tree scene.
Thank
Ah.
you. That's why I was trying to direct it back
Where
to the trees.
and that's right. Whereas like her fight with her mother is very passionate and inflamed.
Yeah.
And her fight with her father.
Tracy Letts rolls up and he's just like, here's
just like,
here's
let's stand on the
don't tell your
toes.
mom, but I'm going to give you the money for school.
Exactly. Right. You can go to the Wudang Mountain.
I did.
Get a sword.
I did realize what the greatest, not greatest in terms of in a pejorative way, greatest in terms of largest influence of this movie was on Hollywood, which was just fucking 15 years of any time an Asian character does anything in a comedy being referred to as crouching
Oh, yeah.
blank, hidden
Right,
blank.
right.
The result was that it just played up our most racist tendencies.
Right.
as a
In the
culture.
same way that like Slumdog
Yeah.
Millionaire for 15 years
Right.
after is
Every-
just like,
yeah.
oh, look at Slumdog Blank over here. I hate everybody.
Chill out, Griffin. It's gonna be okay. It's
Not
great.
going to be okay.
It's great.
It's great. Fuck you. Okay, so they dance on top of trees.
Oh, it's like at this point,
Bamboo trees.
the fighting is so abstract that they're not even making physical contact with one
no,
another.
no. He just like taps on the bamboo tree.
Yeah.
And then he kind of looks at her. I like that. You know, where she's going by him. He's
Oh
like,
my god, it's the best.
He's like, oh, but I'm still and she's moving. What does this mean?
It's
Huh.
like a pure abstraction at this point.
I'll definitely figure it out once I'm dying. which is like 5 minutes later.
This movie does put a lot of stock in the things that we realize on our deathbeds. Like like Ang Lee's really putting all his chips in that pot.
Yeah, which is, I mean, if you're going to compare it to a Western, and I think the Wuxia movie kind of has that cachet, everyone figures everything out right at the end of a Western. Sure. We're like,
right when it's too late to do anything about it.
Right, exactly. I maybe I am a son of a bitch, but I guess I'm going to die now. Like, whatever. I don't know. He dies. He gets.
Yeah, I mean, that scene is, they put him up on the trees. They had the wire work. I still don't know how they got the camera up there.
I have no idea.
But they did it.
That flips me out. And also how they got all the wires up there.
Yeah.
Like, you think about how high the sort of whatever rig they were using had to be above them, which is already above the trees. The camera, it's insane.
It's totally insane. And then he dies.
Yeah, they go to a cave. Jade Fox makes her move. She shoots 1 billion arrows at him. He chops them all away.
Which is super cool.
And then he...
All but one.
All but one. And he cuts up her sword and like kind of just directs it back at her. That's how she dies, right?
He like hits all the little needles and they all fly back at her.
I could have sworn there's something with a sword.
Her own poison.
Yeah, no, I know.
Is what claims her.
Because, I mean, there's that question of like, well, if Jade's not even that good, like if she's already been beaten by Jen, how's she killing people? But it's like, poison, that's sort of like the trickster's art. Like, it's like...
poison is a recurring theme in this movie about, how it's as, for the bitter pills. But then, in a very James Jameson like flourish at the end there, he gets to have this wonderful dying monologue where he looks at her and he says, I would rather be a ghost. He's Clint Eastwood in the movie, by the way. Yeah. I would rather be a ghost drifting by your side.
These are the Crouching Tiger action figures.
Carry on, Erlich.
Merchandise
as a condemned soul.
Erlich, here are the Crouching Tiger action figures.
The Li Mu Bai one's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
Then enter heaven without you. Because of your love, God. I will never be a lonely spirit. And you know what? It works, damn it.
It does work, but it is kind of funny that when he's dying, he's like, I love you. I'm sorry that we're never going to be together, but I will be a ghost that walks alongside you.
We can make out for like 45 seconds if you want. I think I got that left in the tank.
I can make out, and then I'm going to be an eternal spirit that walks alongside you. Okay, I got to go.
Well, Ben's going to show me something on his phone.
Here's the costume for the Fuckmaster.
Oh, okay, there's the costume for the Fuckmaster.
It's pretty good, right?
That's pretty good.
Can I see Ben?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But no, it's like a Roman holiday sort of, and it's like we know in our hearts that we were in love with one another, and that is.
By the way, here's a picture of the Tickle Me Ben doll.
Oh wow,
that's a picture of the Tickle Me Ben.
Does it come with some audio? Can you pull it?
Comes with some audio. Let me pull the string. Stop fucking tickling me. What's wrong with you?
Li Mu Bai. He's not Marin. You just blew up the mic.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. That's the Tickle Me Marin. Let me scan over.
He's like, who are you guys?
Okay, let me scan over. Okay, here's the Tickle Me Ben. Okay. Wet! Big!
Fuck yeah.
I didn't study at the Wudon school, but like I heard about it.
Yeah, right. Wudon guys. Yeah, I mean they're cool. I know those guys. I used to work the door over at Beijing, the Forbidden City. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember the day he came in and said he was going to do a jazz fight.
This is good.
David's throwing his cell phone against the wall.
This is good, guys.
You should mention that.
Like most things, I am
first
nothing.
of all, jinx for you guys lying at the same time.
Yeah.
Secondly, I should mention that before this episode recorded, when we were talking, I was talking about something that made me very angry, and I picked up my chair and acted like I was going to throw it across the room.
Yeah.
And there's a big window in our studio that faces out to the offices.
Really alarmed.
Like 4 different people who work at Audio Boom thought I was losing my mind.
You are losing.
The window looks exactly like the square window that they have when the face touching scene that we sort of brushed past. When and he's like declares his love for her, and she's like, I get it now. Like finally, 90 minutes of this movie, I get that you want me. And that's what the window looks like. So imagine watching Griffin throw a chair through that window.
And wondering whether they should call the cops.
Right.
I wish they could have
called the cops.
Fucked.
Oh yeah, it would have been cool.
This is my favorite kind of movie.
No, I agree.
It's like,
I mean, it's better that way.
It's better.
Let me ask you this though: what if they fucked and flew at the same time?
Well, that's what Jen gets, right?
Yeah.
She goes back to Fuck Mountain right after this.
She goes to Fuck Mountain where Chang Chen's hanging out.
This is the first of Ang Lee's Fuck Mountain diptych. His Sex Mountain movies.
Both were transgressive in their own ways.
Yeah.
And she gets to have one last one last romp, and then in a very bittersweet and ambiguous ending,
flies
away.
Yeah, jumps off that fucking mountain. Goes like this.
Yeah.
I'm doing a good...
this was one of those years where like the Oscars seemed wide open.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Oscars.
Where it kind of felt like, I think it felt like 4 of...
I mean, how many Oscar races have 2 movies by the same director nominated versus a sword and sandals epic and a Chinese martial arts movie?
Right. And then the 4th nominee was Chocolat.
The fifth nominee is Chocolat.
Right.
So, let's get some...
But I feel like people thought it was a pretty even race between Gladiator, Traffic, and Crouching Tiger, that it could go any one of the 3 ways.
Correct.
And people started to sense that Crouching Tiger might be the Jackie Robinson that breaks the foreign language barrier for Best Picture.
Right.
Came
and it
very
should
close.
have.
Everyone thought he was going to win Best Director because they thought Soderbergh would cancel himself out.
But he didn't.
He didn't.
Luckily, Ang Lee got to win Best Director 2
You know
times.
what? I still resent Soderbergh for just not pulling a full Ving Rhames and being like, you know what?
Giving
Ang
it to
Lee
Haley Joel
deserved this.
Osment.
No, it'd be great if he was like, everyone come on stage. All the other nominees. Stephen Daldry, Ang Lee, Ridley Scott, Steven Soderbergh, come on stage. And then he came on stage for his own bit.
Yeah, what if he
That'd be
Ving
good.
Rhames himself for Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah,
He's
he was like,
to be honest, I think I did a better
great job on Traffic, but Aaron Brockovich, that was the real movie.
Yeah.
All right,
I gotta
come
get my
on,
award.
come on.
Goes
Goes
my
backstage
favorite living filmmaker.
to the guy who's engraving it, and he's just like, no, I won for Aaron Brockovich. just write that in.
No, I mean, I actually really like Gladiator. I think it's a great movie. I can't believe it won Best Picture.
I find
It's
Gladiator
an
kind
odd.
of boring. I think it's
I
fine.
find you kind of boring.
But that's not true
No,
because
I
we're
find-
very good friends and we do a podcast.
I find you
together.
very exciting.
Thank you.
I thought
great.
Russell Crowe was a very convincing Spanish man.
Yes, he was the Spaniard. Watch
So
out for him,
weird.
Maximus.
Yeah, it's weird that film won.
Gladiator.
Yeah, because I feel like the
Well,
narrative.
Traffic won 4 of its 5 Oscars.
Right.
And it only missed out on Picture.
Crouching Tiger won 4 out of 8.
Yeah, Crouching Tiger
10.
won.
10.
Yeah, because I think
Wow.
Crouching Tiger. Well, Gladiator probably got a lot too.
Yeah.
Gladiator got 12.
Jeez.
Crouching Tiger got 10. So,
Yeah.
but Crouching Tiger won Best Score.
Yeah, because Gladiator got 2 acting noms. That's the difference.
Right. Best Score, Best
Uh-huh.
Art Direction, Best Cinematography, and Foreign Language Film.
Okay.
Those were its 4 wins. Traffic won Editing, Director, Supporting Actor, and
Screenplay.
Adapted Screenplay.
Right.
You know where Gladiator didn't win? In the court of public opinion,
Yeah.
my friends.
Was the highest grossing movie. Yeah, in a minute. We're going to do it.
What are we going to do?
He wants to do the box office.
We're going to do it. We're just talking the Oscar.
We're talking Oscars.
Well, now we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about the lyrics of the closing credits song.
Yeah, of course.
Love Across Time.
Yeah, but we have 2 hours left in this episode.
I love Before
And
Time.
I love Before Time, sorry. And it's not After Time. It's very different love.
Yeah.
And I also might sing the song from the credits of Return of the King just because I really like it.
Let's just talk about Best Original Song for just 30 seconds
Yeah.
because the nominees are the Bob Dylan song from Wonder Boys,
Times have changed.
Times Have Changed.
Which that wins,
that wins.
and he Skypes in, right?
Yes.
I remember he
He
was
Skypes in. He was like in concert.
They do a live
He's like,
performance,
I won an Oscar,
but it's a
cool.
live, like televised
yeah.
performance. They're all watching, and then they like cut back to him, and he's like, "What was I? I know that's an Oscar."
Then A Fool in Love from Meet the Parents, a song I do not remember.
I do.
A Randy Newman song.
When you're a fool in love, I swear to God, that's how the song goes. When no
That actually
mistakes
rings a
or
bell.
sympathies. It's the opening credits. That song's a banger.
He wrote it in real time.
The Crouching Tiger song.
in love.
The one song from Emperor's New Groove that Sting wrote that survived,
My Funny Friend in Me, which
and
plays
then
over the end credits.
David, what was the 5th nominee?
A Love Before Time
No, I already mentioned that one. What was the 5th nominee
in the year 2000.
in the year 2000? It's probably
Oh,
your
it was
favorite
in the
movie
year
this
2000 from Conan, right?
That's right.
It was La Bamba nominated for
It
year
was
2000.
I've Seen It All.
Oh,
from
fuck.
Dancer in the Dark.
No,
Really?
really?
By Bjork.
That was the
Oh,
That's
story.
why
the
she was
swan
at the
dress.
Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
was
thought
the
that was
swan
the year
dress.
after.
And your wife once helped you psych yourself up to wear a swan dress.
This is true. This is the moment I realized I was in love with my wife.
Yeah,
when I
otherwise-
was
You
dressed
told her
as
your
Bjork's swan dress.
You probably would have been doomed to a Chow Yun-fat Michelle Yeoh relationship of never expressing it until that
Sure.
moment when she gave you the courage to wear the dress and say yes to the dress.
I said yes to the swan dress.
Yeah.
All right, so now Mr. Fun Pants over here wants us to play
You know what?
the box
Let's let
office
Ben
game.
guess the box office this time if he's so eager to do it.
No, he can see it. That's the problem.
Ben looks terrified right now.
No, don't have.
Okay.
I mean, I could try.
What's the whitest this movie ever went?
Oh,
The whitest? I think it's right now.
What's the widest
Bingo.
release it got?
The widest it gets is 2,227
so it
screens
does end up getting that big.
in March.
Wow.
So this movie came out in December.
That's some big fat Greek
It's a
wedding
slow
legs.
expansion.
Yeah.
Like it never, it
It's
never
also-
like ballooned.
It's fascinating because like Sony Pictures Classics are like they're the slow and steady guys.
They
They
are.
never try to get like a Fox Searchlight like crossover hit. Their second highest grossing movie is like a film that made $25 million.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
Capote's in their top 5 of all time.
Sure.
And they had like no experience releasing a film this wide.
Right.
Oh, Midnight in Paris, I guess, is their second biggest. But they, I saw Michael Barker, co-president of Sony Pictures Classic, talk once, and he said the moment I realized we were going to cross $100 million was I was at a mall and I heard 2 kids talking, hyping each other up to go see Crouching Tiger, or they just seen it. And they were like, man, the fucking subtitles were so cool. And he was like,
Sure.
somehow the subtitles of the movie
Even
became
that was interesting.
a cool
right?
thing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this movie did eventually platform all the way to a totally wide release,
Which is
but
insane.
it took 4 months.
Yeah.
The box office.
What's the highest it ever did in one weekend?
$10 million on February 16th. Yes,
Crazy. Okay.
Well, it was Valentine's Day weekend. Everyone wanted to go, have their forbidden love.
pretty much. Its highest position was number 5, which is
Nuts.
No, number 4. Sorry.
Okay.
Which is the weekend before.
Yeah.
Okay. It opens at number 15. It makes a very solid $41,450 per screen
Okay.
on 16 screens.
Lincoln Plaza is one of them.
Yes, that's right. David bought a ticket.
R.I.P.
Hell yeah.
The first movie, number 1 movie at the box office,
So this is December. Give me the weekend again.
December 8th, 2000,
December 8th, 2000.
is the number 1 movie of 2000.
It's the number 1 movie of 2000, and it is called Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
That's right.
Everyone forgets how much fucking money that movie
That
made.
is grim.
That
260
movie
million
made
domestic.
So much goddamn money.
The Grinch!
There's another Grinch movie coming this
know.
year.
I know.
And it's like all in on how he likes to twerk or whatever.
It
Like, it's
literally,
like-
it literally looks. You know the way they used to like skin video games for like a new movie coming out, where it's like we just took Street Fighter, but we put the characters from Lethal Weapon 3 on top of them. It looks like that with Despicable Me.
It
It's
does.
going to
It
make
looks like they
$7
skinned
billion
Despicable. It looks so
It's
bad.
going to make so much
And
money.
also, Benedict Cumberbatch is playing the Grinch. Oh, cool. He sounds kind of like the Grinch. I see the trailer. He's doing a fucking American accent.
He loves to do that accent.
Benedict Cumberbatch speaking like Benedict Cumberbatch sounds like the Grinch. Instead, he's like, hey, look, I'm a Grinch.
I guess the Grinch is like canonically American, which is weird.
But in the fucking cartoon, he was what? He was Boris Karloff? Boris Karloff was the narrator. I guess you didn't hear him.
He
say-
doesn't talk.
I
yeah.
can already picture myself having.
But he's always had that gruff, deep voice.
You're going to have to review
I'm
this
going to have to
movie.
write some review about
Yeah.
how like the Grinch is an expression of capitalism
Yes.
and like.
You're going to have to go see this
Because
movie.
I gotta
on a
I gotta
weekday
see
night.
these fucking movies, and I have to find a way to make them interesting for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To like amuse myself when I'm writing the review, and inevitably it's going to be like how the Grinch exposes the Donald Trump era for what it is.
There it is.
They also, the guy, I'm forgetting his name, but the dude who directed all of the Gorillas stuff had been hired to direct the movie, and it was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
okay, you're talking about the Illumination movie. Yeah.
The Illumination
Yeah,
Grinch,
right, yeah.
and everyone was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then like 4 years of silence, and then the trailer comes out, and they're like, oh yeah, we fired that guy 3 years ago. We didn't tell anybody.
Still Ron Howard's biggest movie is The Grinch.
It's still, I think, Jim Carrey's biggest movie.
Are you sure it's not The Heart of the Sea?
In the Heart of the Sea. Oh, you're right. That made $4 billion. Right. All right. Number 2.
Common mistake.
Number 2.
Grinch was number 1 like 6 weeks in a row. That's
This is
crazy.
its 4th
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Number 2 is a new release. It's an action film. It's Cold.
It's a cold action
chilly
film.
movie.
It's a
Cold.
chilly movie.
Not Chill Factor.
Nope.
It's a
Good guess,
winter.
though.
It's a winter picture. Does it take place in a sort of Arctic zone?
Correct. It's a movie that I saw. I don't remember it.
Is it Vertical Limit?
That's right.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Vertical Limit.
You wanna hear
starring
something-
Chris O'Donnell.
Really embarrassing.
Go ahead.
Much like I still only know my multiplication tables through Schoolhouse Rock and playing those songs in my head.
Uh-huh.
The way I remember the difference between horizontal and vertical is Vertical Limit.
Great.
I go, oh, vertical's that way because that's the point of that movie.
Hold your breath.
That was
Was
the
that the
tagline.
tagline?
My favorite thing about Vertical Limit is that Robin Tunney is billed above the title.
Hell yeah.
Weird. O'Donnell
right.
and Tunney?
O'Donnell, Paxton, Tunney, Scott Glenn.
Great first
All
scene.
4 above
All
the title?
4.
That
Good first
movie,
scene.
that movie is really only worth watching until the opening title comes.
It's
Then
a
you can
good
just
first
bail.
scene. It's a great example of Martin Campbell only being good at making masterpiece James Bond movies, and everything else is bad.
And The Mask of Zorro.
And Mask of Zorro. Perfect.
Did you
You're right.
see that tweet someone was like posting from old Premiere Magazine's an article about Chris O'Donnell being like the next big leading man, and how like Leonardo DiCaprio was having to pick up his rejected roles, and they were like, this guy, sky's the limit with him. He's like a little Tom Cruise. It's like, what do you mean little Tom Cruise?
How little
and
is
also,
Chris O'Donnell?
How tall is Chris O'Donnell?
Betting on the wrong horse. Apparently he's negative 5'2".
All right, number 3 is another action picture.
Okay.
Starring a big star of 2000.
But only 2000? Ben's trying to figure this one out.
He was hot. This was his year.
This is when he was starting to get big.
And he was already like really big this year. And there was a lot of controversy around this movie.
Around this one.
Around something that happened on set. Something sexy.
Something sexy happened on set. This was his second movie that year, but this year was kind of his breakthrough year.
Correct.
Sexy criminal or sexy exciting?
Sure.
What was it? An affair?
Yes.
It's not Proof of Life, is it?
It is Proof of Life, my friend. Russell Crowe and Meg Ryan boning down.
They boned down.
Dennis Quaid, all sad.
I saw that movie in theaters so reluctantly. I just remember sitting there being like,
It's
why?
not great. Is it a Hackford?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
a
Hackford.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Number 4 at
Has
the
anyone's
box.
name ever been more apt?
Rude. Number 4 at the box office is your favorite movie, man. You love this fucking movie.
Number
it's probably
4.
your like number 1 of 2000.
Number 4.
It's like I guess it's sort of a thriller.
It's my favorite movie of 2000. Obviously, not an Oscar play.
No.
Is it a family film?
No. It's like a horror thriller.
Oh, Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Unbreakable. Fingered. Twisted.
Thank you. It was the kids.
I grew up in England.
I just got to see producer Ben Hosley hit the twisted button in real time.
He does it with a sort of
It was very
Resigned.
It was like he was filing like a TPS report.
Yes. Yeah.
But I can't hear it. It's not playing live in the studio, but there was like a little bit of fairy dust.
Yeah, we're
coming off the
hearing nothing,
keyboard.
but Ben just kind of sighs, drops his head.
I put it together
and hits
in
a
my
button.
mind, and it was beautiful.
So, then there's all a bunch together. Grinch is 18, Vertical Limit's 15, Proof of Life is 10, Unbreakable is 7.5. Like, it's all like...
Okay.
And then number 5 is a new release based on a popular game that one of those movies where you're like, oh.
A video game.
No.
A board game.
Kind of.
Zathura. No,
Not
that's
Zathura.
That's
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. That's right. Thora Birch.
Marlon
Wayans.
Wayans. Justin Whelan.
Justin Whelan? Is that his name? Whalen?
I think that's
the guy from Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
that wasn't a you
Jeremy
were bold
Irons.
joint, was
No,
it?
it's not. No. He was not even tickling the ivories at that
Can
point.
you tell
be
me
bold
the
and still get warmed up.
director of Dungeons and Dragons?
Fuck. Did they direct anything else ever again?
I think this was his debut. He did make at least a couple movies afterwards. He
Vincent
made
Gallo.
An American Haunting and Getaway.
Getaway, the Ethan Hawke,
Yes.
Selena Gomez movie?
Correct.
Fuck.
Oh, wait, I interviewed him.
What?
Yeah, because there's a shot in Getaway that is like intensely illegal and could have murdered a lot of people, and I was fascinated by it.
The weird, the car chase thing.
Yeah, it's a POV like 90
He does like a
mile an
lot of
hour
like
car
dashboard
chase.
cam stuff. In
Yeah, that
movie,
movie's
right?
unwatchable, and then for one shot at the very end of the movie,
He becomes
it's just
Eisenstein.
I mean,
I read that. I read
cinema.
that.
it's insane. I mean, it should never be only in wherever in Russia they were shooting this, where they would be able to do this.
So can you recall his name?
No, God, no.
I have no idea.
I
What
just
is it?
remember speaking to him, and he thought that he was just like taking things to the next level.
I think I might have read that interview.
and
I
I was
remember.
just like, okay,
Yeah.
His name is Courtney Solomon.
yes.
Anyway, so that's the top 5. We've also got 102 Dalmatians,
Yeah.
Rugrats in Paris, the movie.
102 Dalmatians, probably one of my favorite Johann Griffith vehicles.
Well done.
I
saw that in theaters.
You said, okay, 102 Dalmatians, what was the one after?
Rugrats in Paris, the movie.
Yeah, I mean, a great film.
Saw that in theaters.
One of the few sequels that's better than the original.
Okay.
Both pale in comparison to the Hanukkah episode. Just say.
I think episode's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Rugrats doesn't get enough credit for how Jewy it was.
Yeah.
I know. Stu Pickles is a hot guy.
Yeah, and it's like you got
He's
the
a
Eastern
hottie.
European grandparents. Like,
Yeah, I know. I mean, Hey Arnold was playing, but that comes later.
yeah, but Rugrats is so fucking Jewy. It's so good.
I know. Meet the Parents. Yeah, well, it's also Jewish because the villain of Rugrats is a wasp girl.
Right.
It's like a super waspy girl.
Wait, Meet the Parents?
Meet the Parents.
When you're full in love, there's no surprise. I just remember in the movie, I think he just sings it, but at the Oscars, it was him and
Ben is just sick of every tangent.
Susanna Hoff from the Bengals.
Okay.
Because she was married to Jay Roach. She did like the Oscars with him.
That is like the craziest fucking thing. How do you know that? Even I'm like horrified that you know that.
Jay Roach,
one of the
director of the
Bengals is
campaign,
married
was
to
direct-
Jay
They're
Roach.
divorced now.
Oh boy.
I got Bengals. Could you milk me?
Hey, hey. When you're a Bengal in love.
Bounce.
Baby.
Don Roos movie.
Wait,
Let's
it
just
bounced.
keep
It's
going
bounced
so
a movie
Ben
about
kills
the
us.
Let's
Ben
never end
Affleck
this
when it's
episode.
Paltrow plane crash movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Ugh,
Don
traumatizing.
Roos. It's a weird movie.
Yeah. That was his blank check.
Men of Honor. Yeah, you know.
Man of Honor, that's a movie that doesn't exist.
It is. I mean, that's
Oy.
Cuba Gooding Jr. from like 96 to 2005. His
Right.
movies.
I remember seeing the trailer for that in like August and being like, Oscars ahoy.
De Niro, Gooding Jr.
Theron.
I wish I could. Theron?
It's
Sharon's
a period
really bad in
piece.
that
They're
movie,
dropping
yeah.
him into the ocean. It's going to be huge.
The first black scuba diver ever.
You're right. And the guy who was real racist.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to see the new poster for Sherlock Gnomes?
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be really
It's a Deadpool spoof. You want to see it?
Yeah.
It's like a perfect storm of things that make me want to retire and live in a cave.
Numble! Kicking grass is a new phase.
What do you think? Does this accurately describe how you feel right now, Ben?
It's not sad enough.
Does Sherlock Gnomes have the most aggressive outdoor marketing campaign of any movie in history? Because they started putting like subway and bus ads up for that movie 6 months before it came out. It's still not out. Those ads have been up since October.
It's coming out though.
Will it ever?
I don't know.
How about this for a character? Sherlock Foams. He's got shaving cream all over his face.
Can he also have the foam fingers?
Oh,
Wait a
absolutely.
wait a
And
second.
he has a foam pipe.
Ben,
Shit.
Wait, this guy's coming in with a sack of money? What?
Yes.
Ben,
Thank you so much.
Ben, why would you
Yeah.
waste that
What?
when I'm clearly running out of Dollar Shave Club mascot characters for the ad reads?
Oh, shit.
Don't worry, we'll bring him in.
Okay, well, now we
Okay.
have...
Yeah,
now we
you
have
probably
that.
heard him 6 months ago, guys.
Yeah, get ready for Sherlock Holmes.
That
Too
reminds
many
me
series
that
ago.
my secret hope for this episode, other
Oh.
than that Ben would or someone would say twisted and Ben would hit the button and that I would see it happen and become a man,
We did it.
is that
we would do an ad read?
That we would do an ad read.
Yeah, we're like, it's so far in the future.
Yeah.
We don't
Wait,
have ads
what
yet.
do you mean, Erlich? We did an ad read.
Yeah, we did a
Oh.
great ad
Wink,
read.
wink,
Cut that out,
wink,
Ben.
wink, wink,
Cut it out and
wink,
double
wink,
it.
Wink, wink, because we definitely get specifically paid to
All right,
do
all right,
the ad
shut up,
reads
shut
in the
up, shut up,
fucking.
shut up, stop talking. I'm going to actually stop you.
Wink, 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 wink.
Money
wink,
is more
wink,
important to
wink,
me than
wink, wink,
integrity.
wink. David loves money.
I do.
Hashtag David loves money.
Ehrlich, are you happy?
Yeah, this is a hard movie to make funny.
I think we were pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gift.
But also, this show is very intellectual. You have
Yes.
to remember, it's not just about the laughs; it's also about the.
I feel like I just kept being like, no, but let's talk about emotions.
I know. Well, everything you said about the movie was very smart.
Yeah,
I just feel it so deeply in the cockles of my heart.
but that's the promise, the blank check guarantee, a chin stroke for every guffaw. You go ha 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 ha,
And I'm done.
ha 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 ha.
Don't walk out. We got it. We're all right. We're done. Yeah, we're done. We talked for 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is a nice normal length for an episode of Blank Check,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's the problem?
I feel like the show's getting too long.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? You want to
All
get
right.
it shorter?
All right. Before we wrap, let me just do some damage control here on
Okay.
behalf of your audience again, just to bookend this episode. The show's not getting too long. I'm sorry, everybody. This episode maybe, but not in general. And we're going to need some more nicknames.
More nicknames.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't care as a listener if you need like a plaque on the wall or like a cue card to read them off. I need it. I need it just to recognize and reorient myself in this world, to find a center, to not just get lost in the deep void of sadness that I feel after 30 years of studying on Wudon Mountain.
Ben, can you ask Audioboom if they can buy us a plaque?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. Thanks to Andrew Gudo for our social media, Leigh Montgomery for our theme song, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. Ben is rubbing his temples vigorously.
Anything else?
Is a burger report this episode? No?
I don't think so. I mean, I can check. You want me to check?
Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Stay through the credits to find out.
I don't know.
It looks like there isn't. At least
So enjoy not listening to a burger report.
Sure.
Ben is furious.
Another episode in the books. Great job, guys.
The burger report at the end of the Terms of Endearment episode.
The Terrence Malick one?
Was a hell of a twist.
Woo! That was hot stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't get info on whether or not he was wearing the hat, though, did we?
I want to know about that hat.
Gotta know about
that
that
goes
hat.
on the Terrence Malick action figure for sure.
Gotta know about that hat.
Give me that hat.
Give me that hat.
See, Ben likes this.
That makes me laugh.
All right.
Okay, Ben, stop laughing, though. I'm trying to end the podcast.
Oh, I thought we were done.
No, because, and as always, when you're a fool in love.